We're back in action once again for the 2021 Grand Prix Virtual World Championship, and we are here at Baku in Azerbaijan. 51 laps, an incredibly intense race ahead of us, and round 5 of this 16-race championship season for 2021. I'm Jake Sanson, beside me is Caitlin Penny, in the broadcast direction suite is Argo, and we're going to have an amazing race in front of us. For all sorts of reasons, Caitlin, this is a must-see event tonight.
Absolutely, Baku. I was talking about it on the Super League broadcast. It's chaotic, and that was just backed up by the crazy Super League Lights race that we saw just the other day. It's going to be a fascinating one, and it's going to be all about keeping your nose clean, Jake.
Yes, this is a very, very tricky situation, a difficult racetrack, and definitely very tight and twisty. It's the fastest street circuit in the world, certainly at this level of sim racing. It's fast straights, tight twisty sweepers, a good collection of square right and left-handers, but also that tight and twisty section up in the castle end of the circuit. Plus, there is also a big championship ramifications shockwave that has been rippled through Super League in the last couple of days, in that the Adonis Engineering team that has been fighting for the title from the start of the season has had a major driver fallout. Both Adam Maguire from Ireland and the Dutchman Liam de Waal, who have won one of the races so far this season, and of course the reigning champion is Adam Maguire, they are both gone. This is absolutely massive and gargantuan in terms of its gravitas of controversy for the championship fight in 2021, Caitlin. What on earth is this going to mean for the rest of the season?
Well, I don't know. It's Alessandro Quinte who's managed to jump into that seat to replace one of the two drivers. He will be in the number 1 car, but I don't see another Adonis Engineering car on track at the minute, and we're already in qualifying, so it looks to me as if we're only going to have one Adonis here today. And this is the team, remember, who's second in the team's championship, just 4 points behind Evolution. And Evolution, of course, do have both of their drivers, both of their books here today, actually running very close to each other on track right now. So they're going to be taking a huge points haul. Maybe it'll end up being Evolution versus GSR for the championship this year, Jake.
It's certainly potential, isn't it? Now, we definitely can't give you any concrete reason as to why the two drivers have disappeared. The forums and the Discord chat are all agog and awash with speculation and rumour, as well as a lot of hearsay. But essentially, what we gather is that there is a disagreement of some kind that has upset the apple cart within the Adonis Engineering team, and now both Adam and Liam are no longer there, present at the squad. Certainly for Baku, we don't know how long it's going to be possible for them to be out for. We don't know what the ramifications are long term. Certainly in the short term, two of the drivers fighting for the title, and Adam Maguire, who is just 3 points back from Yannick Bock in the drivers' fight, is not going to be in the car for Baku. Serious controversy. This is a bit like turning around to Max Verstappen and Alex Albon and saying, you're both out of the car. Neither of you are performing. So for whatever reason, it's all change at Adonis. Only Alessandro Quintai, as we have mentioned already, is in the car thus far. So that's going to be a very interesting race for the Adonis team. And it looks as though, because that has happened very dramatically between the races, there's only one seat filled. So the attention now turns essentially to the likes of Edge Sport, to GSR, with their superstar driver Fabrizio Gobbi, who of course has been incredibly consistent through the course of the season. But then you've also got Evolution Motorsports with the airmen Yannick and Leon Bock. There's a lot riding on this battle for the title fight now. And to a certain degree, with two of its biggest players out of the way, there are several drivers that can now step up and take a starring role.
And don't get me wrong, Jake, Alessandro Quinte is a very good driver and a solid shoe for that Adonis Engineering team, but he hasn't got the experience or the sim racing titles that his teammates do. Adam Maguire and Leon Duval, of course, have taken this car to wins, to podiums, and everything close to that in this championship so far. Of course, Duval was last year's Super League Lights champion with 10 race victories in a row. And Quinte has driven this car before. He was a super sub for the Australian Grand Prix, although of course he only finished 17th in that race. So as much as I think he is a solid shoe, and as much as I think that he's very, very quick, he's no Maguire or Duval, and this is going to be a difficult race for him, especially considering that he's going to be compared to those. Anyway, we're now in qualifying. The banker laps are being set, the first few benchmarks. Yeni Simoncic currently at the top in the Burst Esport car, followed by Colin Spork and Yannick Bock there, our championship leader, currently in third place, with plenty of time still to be gained, Jake.
Yes, it's going to be an interesting one, that is for sure. The battle is now well and truly joined at the front end for qualifying. 10 minutes to go, obviously, in the session. So we will have a very interesting battle ahead of us. We're going to get some exciting challengers to come forward. Alessandro Quintai is out there on the circuit. It's Jonic Cimicic who has got to the front end of the field at the moment on a 1:37.5, 9.5 minutes left of the session. Colin Spork, Yannick Bock, and Stefan Ruaut are the ones chasing. We need to keep an eye on Stefan Ruaut this time in Baku. He was so strong last time in India. He's got an opportunity, this certainly in qualifying. It all fell apart, if you remember, on the opening lap in Bud for Stefan Ruaut. But I would love to see if this time he has that speed and potential to come straight out of the blocks with a fast lap again. But not only that, if he has what it takes to sustain it through the first lap. But then we know for a fact, and having seen it in Super League Lights 2 days ago when we had a red flag here, Caitlin, this is not the easiest of circuits for the entire field to get right on the opening lap. This is very much a case where the drivers need to remember that they can't win it on the first lap, but they can definitely lose it.
Well, I said before the broadcast, it's a case of car wide, track narrow. In fact, this track has the narrowest section of any Grand Prix circuit, just 5.1 meters wide at its narrowest up the castle section. And even on the rest of the circuit, yes, it gets wider, but it's still just as tight through the corners and from entry to exit. And it's just difficult wherever you look, and it's a track of two halves as well. So not only is it difficult in terms of keeping it out of the wall, but it's difficult in terms of getting the setup right. And some drivers, especially if they don't have the setup right for the straights, will be pushing extra hard in the corners to try to bring back the time lost. So yeah, there's danger wherever you look, both to your lap times and your cars. In every classification of racing in GPVWC that we've seen here at Baku, there's been wings flying everywhere. I'm yet to see a properly clean race here at GPVWC in Baku. and hopefully we get a bit more sensibility and order in this race. But as I said earlier, it's going to be about keeping your wings firmly attached to your car.
Yeah, and this is going to be the trickiest place in the world to do that. Here is Stefan Rualt. They're obviously trying to take as much curb as they possibly can. As long as you don't cut the corner, you've got an opportunity to utilise a bit of entry curb and exit curb. See, that's where you really flirt with the limit in terms of track limits on that particular corner. In the inset, we're looking at Leon Bock. This is a good opportunity for him, actually. He can make a massive advantage of the fact that two of the big guns are now not going to be competing. He can make a big challenge. And I was actually watching Alessandro Quintai on his qualifying lap, and he had to bail halfway through it because he was just tank slapping the barriers halfway round. This is such a difficult job for Quintai, not just because he's been thrown in at the deep end, but he hasn't exactly had preparation time coming into this one. It's the toughest race circuit of the year to be thrown in at the deep end and be given the chance to sink or swim. And he's in a car that is expected to win races. So it's not an easy situation for him at all. Only he and Florian Gaia in the Epic Racing Team car have yet to put a lap time in, so they're obviously going to have to do so. We're watching Stefan Rualt. He's on a very quick lap indeed. He's currently down to 7th, but then there's another chance for him to make gains as he comes across the line. Leon Bock having already done so to go 3rd. Rualt across the line. I'm recommending him for at least the top 5 start, and there he is, 5th position, so he's got himself up there. There might be a little bit more in the tank left.
And Yerny Simoncic just improved his time for P1. It's a 1:37.328 that tops the leaderboards at this point in time, with just under 6 minutes remaining. That's just over 0.2 of a second quicker than the box. Actually, it's both box together in 2nd and 3rd, with Yannick just ahead of Leon, the Evolution Motorsports team. And that's interesting because it's not huge, especially since Baku is a relatively long circuit, at least as far as Grand Prix circuits go. So still some excitement to come, I'd suggest, there between Simoncic and the box. Maybe some other people. Not everyone has actually set a lap yet. We haven't seen Alessandro Quinte actually cross the finish line to close off a flying lap, nor have we seen Florian Gaia. Oh, we do have a second Adonis. A second Adonis car has just joined the server, and it's Sandeep Singh.
Wow, that is a bit of a left field choice. I mean, it's a good one. It's a good one to put in as a last minute super sub. So Sandeep Singh is not exactly a bad choice, but it is very last minute. I wonder how many drivers he's had to go around the paddock and basically say, look, can you get us some points today? Can you get us in the grid? So that is a very late decision for Sandeep Singh to get in the car. We'll have to watch him out on circuit shortly. Here's Alessandro Quintai. This is going to be the clean lap we're after, 11th. That's not bad at all, considering how close it is in the field and how last minute this move into the car is. And that's only 0.7 of a second off pole position. Quintai can be very happy with that initial lap, as Eros Mashuli is across the line in 16th with a 1:37.3 to beat, and he's done a 1:38.4, so just a whisker over a second off the pace. Again, not bad, and there's time for them to get more out of these cars. 4 minutes, 15 seconds on the clock, so Eros Mashuli going well. Yannick Bock just wants to find that little bit more time to close up to Jonic Simoncic in the burst. Now, the thing with that car is that he's 0.2 of a second off the lap time of Jonic Simoncic. Everything else is ridiculously close, but Simoncic has just found that amazing banker lap, and he can hold confidence with that as he continues to make progress. Yannick Bock knows very well that this is essentially his last chance to bang in a lap quicker than Simoncic. Simoncic can stay out there, but ultimately he doesn't have to put too much pressure on himself where he currently is.
I've just noticed in the YouTube chat that Wobke Hoekstra let us know that Singh was going to be driving that car a little while ago, so as the stream began, but we didn't see that, so thank you for the information, Wobke. Apparently he's just finished doing an R&D test for the team. Not a particularly late decision, although I am still sure that he didn't expect to be driving this car in a race 2 days ago. But anyway, so the session continues. Drivers continue to put in hot laps. There aren't actually many doing fast laps at the minute. All of them are setting up for their final runs. And this is a crucial point because you need to get a good run onto your final lap and have your setup absolutely in tune to get it bang on perfect. This is your last chance in the session. I imagine some teams are going to be employing slipstream. It's something we've seen throughout Super League Lights and even Super Cup here, because of course that start-finish straight is, I think, the longest in Grand Prix racing, apart from the straight on the Indian Grand Prix circuit that we saw earlier this year, and I can imagine, especially if you're one of the top teams like Evolution or Edge or Burst or any of the other teams like that, that's what you're going to be employing here, Jake.
Yes, indeed. So there's a lot of factors coming into this one with 2 minutes 15 on the clock. It's worth pointing out as well, before we get too deep into the session as well, as Fabrizio Gobbi bails on his final qualifying lap. He might just have enough time to start another one, but it seems unlikely with the time we've got left. As Wopos himself confirms on the chat stream on YouTube that we will have the first upgrades for Super League 2021 from Austria after a delayed start due to a technical malfunction. So at least we're going to get to see now the cars develop as we go through the course of the season as well. That's going to add its own interesting dynamic to the remainder of the season, especially now that we've got 2 new shoes in for the Adonis squad. So as confirmed by GPVWC, all going to plan. Development will begin next time out in Austria. We'll have a nice little feature during the broadcast to cover it. So wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more. And that will come a little bit later on as we continue. 1 minute and 25 on the clock. Simoncic to beat on a 1:37.3. And it's going to be very tough for even Yannick or Leon to beat that one. Looks as though that's at least one lap that's bailed out. Here is Adonis Simoncic, who is basically out there for an insurance policy to try and get a faster lap time. He's just done a 28.886 in the second split. So there's a very good chance this could be an even faster lap for Adonis Simoncic. He needs to beat 1:37.3 as he comes across the line. And has he done that with an even faster lap time? The answer is yes. Look at that, a 1:37.1. Goodness me, that's nearly 0.4 of a second quicker than Yannick Bock. I'm fairly sure Simoncic has nailed this pole position to the mast.
And one of the Bucks is out of the equation already. Leon Buck lost a lot of time in the second sector and decided to bail out of his lap rather than completing it. So Leon is out of the equation. What about Yannick? He's just about to start his final lap and he doesn't have the support of a slipstream here. So he is doing this all by himself. This is an important an important tour of the circuit. As I'm choking. Carry on, Jake.
We're all choking. Leon Bock into the pits. Colin Spork and the Edge Esports team have made a massive improvement. Now Colin Spork is in 4th place. Maciej Mlinek in 10th. Just waiting to see if there are any more subtle changes. Giuseppe Ragusa actually quicker in the first split than Adonis Simoncic was on his last lap, who did a 42.8 in the first sector. That's what Leon Bock did as well. So Giuseppe Ragusa has got a chance if he can get this lap strung together. It's currently Adonis Simoncic in front of Yannick Bock and Leon Bock, then Colin Spork from Rualt, Kilk, Ragusa, Zapala in 8th place doing a great job, Fabrizio Gobbi in 9th, and then Maciej Mlinek in 10th position. Let's have a look at Giuseppe Ragusa's middle sector, 29.16. That's very good indeed. So Ragusa looking like he could be shoe-in here for potentially a front row start if he can get this together. He might not snatch the pole from Simoncic, but he could certainly snatch a front row of Yannick Bock, who also bails on his lap. He couldn't get an improvement, and Ragusa, I think he's had to bail from his as well.
Colin Spork's the fastest of anyone in the first sector. Yes, indeed, Ragusa appears to have bailed, but Colin Spork is a real contender for pole in the late stages of this qualifying session. And that's come out of nowhere because he was over half a second back on his last time. Maybe he's losing that on the straights. His second sector's good. It's not quite the quickest, but it's good. Maybe just a 10th off the leader. This could, well, it's going to be a front row start at the worst. If he carries on like this, just a straight to go. DRS wide open.
Mlinek's going well as well. Both of them are on a hot streak.
And here comes Spork across the line, and he goes second. He just misses out. He's second. What about Winnick? Winnick crosses the line. He goes 8th. So there we go. An improvement from Winnick. Also, Quinte just improved to 9th. So he is in the top 10 in Adonis. Good job.
That was a very good job from Colin Spork. He managed to find an additional 0.2 more than others had found. A 1:37.456 from him there as Christian Pascal makes the improvement to 23rd. So we have 26 cars on the grid. No lap time from Florian Gaia or Sandeep Singh. They will have to start the race from the back of the grid, but a fabulous lap from Jurnic Simoncic. We thought that maybe Colin Spork would have something to hold to him in the final stages of qualifying, but now it looks as though they are going to have a great run to the first corner, those two, with the Bock brothers in third and fourth on the starting grid. This will be a fabulous opening lap here in Baku, and I don't want to say that the distraction of having Adam Maguire and Liam DeWaal out of the car is going to make for an exciting race, but it's certainly thrown a bit of a curveball, hasn't it? Jurnic Simoncic in pole from Colin Spork, Yannick ahead of Leon Bock, then Stefan Rualt and Right Kilt from Giuseppe Ragusa and Maciej Mlinek. Alessandro Quintai is there in front of Germano Zappala. 11th position for Fabrizio Gobbi, doing a good job on his lap for a 1:38.059 ahead of David Feidek. Lauren Kiersmakers ahead of Matthias Mus, Thomas Vach and Federico Russo. And then Jeffrey Fournier, 17th, ahead of Eros Mashuli. Robin Pansar in the second of the burst cars is 19th. And Michael Francesconi for Maya Downard in 20th place. To finish off the field, Mirko Lucchini and Daniel Stepkowski. Then Christian Pascal and Giuseppe Lino. And then the two who didn't score a single lap out there on the circuit, Florian Gaia and Sandeep Singh. Watch for those two trying to charge through. How much of a gain can Sandeep Singh actually do? Michael Ayres pointing out that Adam would have done a 36.9. Maybe he would have done, but we'll never know just where he could have been in terms of this race. But it definitely means that the championship fight is very much wide open now.
Now, I think that having Spork just behind Simoncic is good for Simoncic because, no disrespect to Colin, I think he's a very, very good driver, although slightly inexperienced. But what's really making me think that that Jerne has a good chance here is the fact that Colin was losing time in the third sector, and the third sector is the most important in a race scenario because that's the straight, and that, of course, is where you need to employ all of your speed, all of your overspeed, and your slipstream, and everything along those lines to keep up with your opponent. It's the only place where you can realistically set up an overtake. So for Colin Spork, it's going to be difficult. And I think his best chance is probably to get ahead of Simoncic off the line or on the first lap of the race. Otherwise, Simoncic does stand quite a good chance of getting away even before the pit stop stages.
And that's where this race is really going to be won and lost, in the pit stops, because we've got such an incredible duel between the drivers to come. And it's that second stint of the race where this battle is essentially going to be played out. In the shorter races we've seen, it's about a battle of wits and a battle of nerves about how you stay cool under pressure. In the Super League, it will come down to that to a certain extent, but it is very much a strategy game in Super League as to who manages to get the absolutely sensational run from the competitors. It's not just about the wheel-to-wheel prowess, although there are some good overtaking opportunities here, not just on the main straight, but also into 3, probably into 7 as well if you're brave enough. But then obviously, once you've gone through the high 5 at the castle, you've got to be really, really cool and collected without having to have too much of a sharp run. So there is some interesting battles. Cameron Roger points out, car damage seems to remain on track for all, even in private. So that's related to their qualifying laps because, of course, they don't have a tow from the cars in front in Super League qualifying. They run together, don't they? So in other categories, they get the tow from other drivers. But even when they're in qualifying in Super League, they have their own run. So they just have a private qualifying session each. So it all comes down to their lap time, which is even more impressive, really, when you consider that Simoncic was able to get that much far ahead of the rest of the field.
Terrically, sorry guys, I forgot about that. I remember saying in qualifying that they were going to be helping each other out. Yeah, they can't do that.
It's still a new rule, isn't it? It's still the new rule for 2021. I don't think we can be forgiven that one.
Yeah, and this is my first Super League commentary of the year.
Exactly.
But anyway, but yeah, that does make it impressive. It does make it, of course, on pure driver ability. But yeah, I'm not convinced that Colin has what it takes in a straight line. You know, around the corners, definitely. He was just as quick as Simoncic in the first 2 sectors combined. But in the third sector, he lost 2/10 on Simoncic's lap. And as I said before, the third sector is the most important sector. So, you know, Colin Spork's great, and he genuinely does stand a chance of winning this race. But Jene Simoncic has the advantage, you have to say, in terms of setup and, of course, track position now that he's taken that pole. So I'd say advantage Jene here, but it's very early. This race is over 50 laps long. It's 310 kilometers. That's a Grand Prix length, and anything can happen in those times with the pit stages, with the back markers. Whatever could take place, could well.
Now, we've got to remember as well that many of the drivers towards the sharp end of this field have not had a lot of time on the podium. Adonis Simicic's best performance of the season thus far is a 4th place in Bahrain, so he hasn't even made the podium thus far this season. Colin Spork, who starts 2nd, well, he finished 2nd in Australia but hasn't returned to the podium since. So that would be a good opportunity for him. Yannick Bock, of course, leads the championship with 2 wins and a 6th, as well as 13th in Australia on 63 points. He is Leon Bock. Currently has not been to the podium either, and he starts from P4. Stefan Rualt would almost certainly have been on the podium more than the win in China. Could have done in India, of course, and had a brilliant run of it, but then that start line incident very much caught him off guard and had to work his way forward. 6th position on the grid is very much going to be an interesting position in that middle of that front end of the pack. So you're going to have a lot of drivers trying to fight their way forward. Now, interestingly, this time we've got Sandeep Singh out there banging in fast laps in the warm-up session rather than in qualifying. I guess he's just trying to get a final feel for that car before going out. Obviously, different drivers will have different attitudes and different race programs in terms of what they'll use the warm-up for. But it's definitely interesting to note that Sandeep Singh decided not to take a gamble of going into qualifying and started from the back of the grid. Look, here is the provisional qualifying results again. You've got Simoncic from Spork, the box, and then Rualt and Wright Kilk. Now, we need to keep an eye on Wright Kilk off the start as well, actually, because Wright Kilk has had a fairly consistent season, but he was missing, if you remember, last time out in India. He was replaced by Thomas Harvey in the Red Arrow car. So it'll be interesting to see what he does on return. His best performance of the season is a 4th place finish as well. And if you look in that top 10, you've got Ragusa, Mlinek, Quintai and Zapata. Now, Quintai hasn't started a race in that Adonis yet, of course, this season, or at least not since Australia, I should point out, because he was obviously the substitute in Australia. So he's straight back in the car again. So it's not exactly as if this is a complete deer in headlights moment for him, but it's definitely a difficult race battle ahead. There's no two ways about that. Ragusa and Mlinek have had an interesting start to the season. Ragusa finally got his first podium last time out in India with a 3rd place finish. And as for Maciej Mlinek, well, I'm surprised that he hasn't been towards the top 6 more often. He got a 6th place finish in Australia and hasn't really been able to replicate that. Germano Sapala has been one of the stars of the season for me in terms of his raw 1-lap pace. He was unlucky in Australia and India that it didn't turn into anything, but he's been top 10 material every time, but only has 12 points on the board. This is going to be a fascinating race because several drivers now have an opportunity to make massive gains. While the cat's away, it seems the mice can come out and play.
Indeed, that's a good analogy for this one. Reminder, in terms of the championship, it's Yannick Bock leading it, and of course it was only by 3 points over Adam Maguire, although that will almost undoubtedly extend. Of course, the only way it wouldn't is if Yannick Bock was going to come away from this round without points. Adam Maguire is still 2nd, although probably won't be after today, and I thought he was going to go on to dominate this championship, I've got to admit. He was 2nd in all 3 of the races he's entered so far, and would probably have continued that podium streak, I'd say. Fabrizio Gobbi is 3rd in the championship after 2 podium finishes, one in Australia and one in Bahrain, and he will take 2nd in today's championship if he has anything to do with it. Although, of course, Stefan Rual is hot on his heels. David Feiduk scored his first podium in a long time, in several seasons, at the Chinese Grand Prix, so he is 5th in the championship, although didn't have such a good race last time out in India. Same could be said for Colin Spork, who actually hasn't scored a top 10 in the last 2 races, so we'll want to return to form. Giuseppe Ragusa is coming off the back of a podium finish at India, and then it's Jene Simoncic, Leon Bock, and Liam Duval rounding out the top 10 in the championship. Although, as we've said, Liam Duval not here today due to the Adonis driver strike or whatever's going on over there. Well, I doubt they were both sacked, but at this point it's just speculation. But anyway, that's how the drivers stand. And in terms of the teams, it's Evolution leading by 4 points over Adonis. And as someone calls Jake, it's GSR third, and then Holland, and then Red.
That's not me. That's not me. It's definitely not my ringtone. I think it might be our broadcast director. Right. Well, let's move on from that. It's a lovely tune. Let's move on from that and talk about the Super League Championship calendar for this season, because obviously we've had 4 very different races thus far in the season. Australia, Bahrain, China, and India. Bok is a double winner. Liam De Waal was the winner in the first round, and Stefan Rualt in the third in China. We're here in Azerbaijan. By next time out at Spielberg on the Red Bull Ring in Austria, we're definitely going to have a very interesting race there, because obviously that's the first time we'll be allowed upgrades in the 2021 season, so we could see some massive changes in the form book there. Canada and Silverstone come next up, and that reaches us to the halfway point in the season. Then, of course, we have Hockenheim from Magny-Cours, Spa-Francorchamps, and Monza. And then we'll have Marina Bay at Singapore, Suzuka in Japan, the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, and then we'll have Sao Paulo in Brazil. Fascinating battle, and we will see a wonderful challenge to the final. Now, for everybody who is not called Yannick Bok, this race could do with a Yannick Bok retirement, because he has a 17-point lead over the other remaining drivers in the category at this point. Let's take Adam Maguire as red. He's going to stay on 60 points, whatever happens. So he's not really going to fall outside the top 5 in the driver's standings. And with it being as close as it is, Adam Maguire could well find himself a decent race seat for the next round in Austria and still have a title attack to go for. So he doesn't need to panic too much about missing the race in Baku. And considering how crazy this race can get, it may not necessarily be a bad thing. He may be able to just sit on the sidelines, take notes, take data, and particularly find himself an opportunity to move forward with it. Now, 17 points for the rest of the challengers to try and make up on Yannick Bok, and that's Fabrizio Gobbi alone. The others have got to make 21 minimum. They would love a Yannick Bok retirement tonight. That's not wishing ill on anybody, but from their point of view mathematically, if Bok were to DNF and the likes of Gobbi, Rualt, Fidek, Spork, Ragusa were to score well, or even Simoncic to take the victory if he stays where he is, that really would open up the championship battle even more to make it closer still in this title fight. And so there are a lot of drivers that are hopefully banking on that kind of scenario, but it's easier said than done. And Yannick Bok is usually very good under pressure, Caitlin. If he gets himself into a decent position on the first lap, he's going to be very difficult to shake.
And it's worth noting that both Boks are right together on the grid. And actually, Leon Bok, even though he's quite significantly below Yannick in the championship, he's finished ahead of him in 2 of the 4 races so far this season. And yes, there were external factors in some of those results, although even so, Leon, and he may have actually been right up there at India if he hadn't had his DNF. I don't entirely know why that was, but anyway, yeah, Leon is up and coming, and at times he's just as good as his brother. And yeah, you'd have to say Yannick is leading the charge, and it's Yannick who has the consistency at this point in time, and it's Yannick who has those 2 wins under his belt. But Leon is right there, and I'd be surprised to see him not contending for podium positions today. Anyway, we've now finished the warm-up session, so it's time to prepare for the start of the Grand Prix.
And this is one I'm particularly excited about. Baku always gives major drama, but even more so tonight than ever before. The fact that we've got 2 absentees from the second best team in the championship standings, and with the reigning world champion in it now not competing, anything could happen. It is absolute open season here tonight. We could have an absolute humdinger of a race, and we're almost certain to get one. Jurnin Simoncic has not finished on the podium this season, and he starts from pole position. This is the best chance he is ever going to have at taking a victory in 2021, certainly for the moment. And if he gets one now, the opportunity for the team to make big gains in terms of their car development upgrades later in the season is absolutely unquantifiable. So the chance for them to make progress is one they just cannot afford to miss. This is absolutely an open goal scenario for Burst Esport. They've got to hope they don't mess it up tonight, and they've got plenty of pressure on them from Colin Sport and the Bok brothers. Stefan Rualt needs to set the world to rights as well, as the field, look, they're all starting on the same compounds, interestingly, by the look of it. Either that or my compounds haven't come up yet. It's probably that latter, actually. But let's talk you through the grid as the drivers are working their way on the formation lap. Jonic Simičić and Colin Spork on the front row of the grid. From the Bock brothers for Evolution, Yannick in front of Leon on the second row. Then it is Stefan Rualt who lines up 5th on the starting grid, alongside Wright Kilk, back in the Red Archer, Giuseppe Ragusa for GSR by VBM, and then Maciej Mlinek doing a good job and a solid effort in 8th place for Edge Esports. Row 5 of the grid sees Alessandro Quintai step into the Adonis for the second time this season, with Germano Zappala in the Scuderia Basilia alongside. Fabrizio Gobbi starts a lowly 11th, and David Feiduk will go off P12. Laurent Kiersmakers lines 13th, and then Matthias Muss in the second of the Red Archers. Thomas Vach in the Powered by RSR, and Federico Russo in the Green Stripes Racing is in 16th place. Jeff Fournier lines up 17th for Basilia. Ghost Speed ADG's Eros Masciudi is 18th. From Michael Francesconi in the Maya Downard, and Mirko Lucchini in the second of the Green Stripes cars. Incredibly, there are 6 cars behind them. Dan Stepkowski lines up 21st on the grid from Christian Pascal in the Maya Downard. Then Giuseppe Lino for Ghost Speed ADG. And Florian Gaia lines up 24th on the starting grid. Sandeep Singh will be 25th. And Robin Panzar, whose time was disallowed from qualifying, lines up at the very back of the grid. Either that, or he's picked up a back of the grid penalty to take into the race. They are all on red tyres. They're all on the red compounds, except for Fabrizio Gobbi, Eros Masciudi, Michael Francesconi, Mirko Lucchini, Giuseppe Lino, and Robin Panzar. It's going to be interesting off the start, no doubt.
And I can explain the 3 at the back. Florian Gaia and Sandeep Singh will both be starting from the pits here. So they obviously presume that there's going to be some kind of carnage off the start and want to keep their noses clean by starting from the pit lane. And Robin Panzar had a 20-place grid penalty, which is why he was actually one of the only drivers to qualify on a tyre that wasn't the softest. And that's basically just because he knew he wasn't going to get a position out of it. So he was doing a bit of a tyre test potentially. But anyway, so that's what the back of the grid is doing. I'm interested to see how Fabrizio Gobbi will come up through the field, as he is the top driver on the medium compound of tyre. I think he stands a good chance of a good points paying position. But up front, it's all about whether Simičić can get away, as I expect he might, or whether someone can hold him back at the start here.
So the driver's just coming to the grid, and we are going to have an absolutely sensational run. It's going to be a tough opening lap. What do you predict is likely to be the way this will go out? Is it going to be chaos and pandemonium, or will they keep it nice and lit for the first lap?
Well, sadly, I've got to say, from what I've seen in all of the other leagues, I'm expecting a few missing wings, if nothing more serious. Possibly a few minor pile-ups throughout the course of the race. The first lap is the most likely time for that to happen. Hopefully it all calms down, and hopefully it's not too bad and doesn't involve too many of the major runners. But anyway, we've got to see. Here come the lights, Jake.
It's time to go racing for the Superleague 2021 at Baku. Let's race in Azerbaijan! Great start off the front, and it's going to be a tough one for everyone to get close to Simičić. He makes an absolute bolt out of the blue, straight through the first corner. The Bock brothers have made a good start. Spork has held on to second place initially. Challenge from one on the inside line, and then cuts back from the outside. But Colin Spork holds it in the first lap, as everybody's kept it nice and clean initially through the first couple of corners. It looks to me as though they're just about going to go away with it without incident. Bock is going to attack straight away. Goes for second position. Nice run from Yannick Bock. Straight into P2 and loses it on the exit potentially. Manages to get the door shut. Colin Spork down in third. What a run from Yannick Bock. He means business tonight.
Fantastic start from Bock. He almost got second up into turn 1, but wasn't dismayed when he couldn't, and just did it a few corners later instead. But Simičić now leads by over a second. He's made a stunner of a start, Jake.
Yep, that is absolutely perfect. Simičić trying to get away and disappear without a trace. He's not yet finished on the podium this season, never mind to grab a race victory. So this is exactly what Jonic Simičić needed to do, fresh out of the blocks. So Simičić leads, Yannick Bock second, Spork third, Leon Bock is fourth, then Ruart, Kilk, Ragusa, Mlanek, Quintai, Zappala, Gobbi, Kiersmakers and Feiduk. An excellent start to proceedings as they run through the first lap. No major catastrophes or dramas so far, as everybody has kept it clean as a whistle for Baku.
Don't speak too soon, Jake, but yeah, they've got through the the castle section, okay? Simoncic and Buck exactly the same time through the second sector, but that means that Buck won't be in DRS range when DRS becomes available in a couple of laps time, unless he can start to gain now. Watch Sport, because he has the slipstream down the straight, and we know his car's not quite as quick as Simoncic's in a straight line, but how does it compare to Buck's? Towards turn 1, he's not going to get a chance. What about further back? We've got moves going on. Winnick, Ragusa, and Quinte there, almost going 3 wide down there, but just about getting away with it, as the rest of the field still clean after the first lap of the race, Jake.
So it's a fabulous start at the inside. This is Vak having a nice battle there with Jeff Fournier. Tries to come through around the outside. Fournier holds his nerve. And they've got pressure from behind from Federico Russo. Good to see the Green Stripes cars getting racy now at this phase of the race. We saw a couple of incidents from them at the start of the year. But Federico Russo now starting to sit up and pay attention as he tries to go for moves. And this is good to see that the Green Stripes team are looking properly racy at this mid part of the section of the season as we get towards the end of 1/3 of the championship season for 2021. So Simoncic stretching out to 1.1 seconds. Bock going fastest of all in the first sector, though. He does not want to let Simoncic get away. He wants to be right in his blind spot as they come off the castle section. Russo swarming around behind the 16th place Thomas Vack. Nobody making that do-or-die lunge into the castle section. You'd have to be stark staring bonkers to make that one work. So they are continuing to charge forward. An excellent run thus far. And though you've got Leon Bock now starting to pressure Colin Spork. Spork did not get the start he wanted. He wanted to be a little bit closer to Jonas Simoncic. Here's Fournier now starting to close up on the second of the Red Archers. That's Matthias Mus. So Matthias Mus is going to be an interesting one to battle with. In front of him, David Feidek. He will be loving this kind of situation. He can get his head down and go right for it.
So round 2 of slipstreaming. Spork's not going to be close enough to Buck, and actually Buck's still not within a second of Simoncic. His time was pretty good on the last lap. It was just faster than Simoncic's. But that's not good enough. You need to be getting into the DRS range at this stage. Quinte is side by side with Ragusa. Look at that. Ragusa sweeps around the outside and gets 8th position there from Quinte. Nice move down throughout the pack. Actually, everyone still has their front wings, so I underestimated these Super League drivers. I apologise. They are very good, and I knew that before. But obviously they're cleaner than I expected as well. And this Baku round is going well so far.
Well, these guys all know that the worst thing they could possibly do is end their race against the barriers on the opening lap. You never know what can happen in these races. All it takes is one driver to drop the ball and the whole race can change. So they've got to keep their cars in one piece and looking like a GPVWC car for the entirety of that opening lap. Otherwise, they could be out of the race before it's even really got going. So Simoncic just trying to stretch the gap out a little bit to Yannick Bock. There or thereabouts is Colin Spork in 3rd position. We're watching Alessandro Quintai, and on the inset, we've got the 4th place man, Leon Bock, just trying to stay with the top 3. He doesn't want to let them get too far ahead. He's got to try and make these tyres work as well as the guys in front. It's all stalemate in the top 10, of course. The highest runner on the medium compound is Fabrizio Gobbi, running in 11th position at the moment. So he's the one who can really make an interesting factor out of this race. He can't quite get close enough to Germano Zappala yet to challenge him. But of course, this is the end of lap 3. So this is the first time we're going to get DRS on our side, Caitlin. This is where we could see an overtaking move or two down to the main straight. We're just riding with Leon Bock on the inset, and he's making massive grounds in terms of straight line speed to Colin Spork, but he's not going to get close enough. But that just shows you the kind of difference in straight line speed between the Evolution and the Edge Esports. And we got a couple of overtakes down the main straight as well, as that's Laurent Kiersmakers making his run to 11th place past Gobbi.
Yeah, and Quinte got 8th back from Ragusa, so they've swapped twice in the last couple of laps. That's 8th position for the Adonis driver, who is keeping some degree of hope alive for the Adonis racing team today. Further back, some more moves. That's Robin Panzer going side by side with Christian Pascal. They both get away with it, and that's over 21st position. But yeah, the DRS is open on the back of anyone close enough to get it. So this is the important stage of the race for overtakes. This is the bit before they can start extending their gaps, getting away from each other, and track position is hugely important in the course of this race. So Simoncic still leading from Buck and then Sport. Simoncic keeping that gap well over that 1 second margin. and Buck not quite able to do the same from Spork, and actually Leon Buck right there as well. So Spork in a bit of an edge sandwich between the two evolutions, and I think there might be a change this time on the start-finish straight, Jake.
Yes, there could be quite a few changes. Everybody in the chat already starting to get quite excited about Right Kilk, and of course as well, Jeff Fournier. He really does have the ultimate sim racing fan club base, doesn't he? He makes Max Verstappen's fan club look like a few blokes on a building site. Here we go. Leon Buck making his run on the inside of Colin Spork, and this is going to be an easy overtake. No worries at all for Leon Buck. He's been building up to that. The Evolution has good straight line speed, so he's been able to make good work of that. Even though Colin Spork had DRS from the car in front, Buck had it as well, and the Evolution is just that little bit quicker in a straight line. Now watch, they'll both have it again, but Colin Spork is not going to have the same top level speed here by comparison to Leon Buck, so he's just not quite going to be able to get close enough. This is a difficulty now for Colin Spork, in fourth position nice and early, but for the Buck brothers this is epic. For Colin Spork, this is just what he didn't want, and now he's got Stefan Rualt trying to chase him down.
It's Evolution, actually Epic's further back, but I get what you were saying. Anyway,
yeah, absolutely.
So, two of the Bucks in the top three now, both Evolutions on the podium, and the only driver keeping them from a 1-2 is Jani Simoncic, and that 1.2 second buffer. Yannick is second, Leon is third, and Colin Spork needs to stick with them because he's been dropping back, and he needs to arrest that momentum, or else drop even further back and lose out on more valuable points. It's too early to be talking about points, realistically. We've still got a long way to go in this race. Now we're heading towards the start-finish straight again. Stefan Ruhl is looking extremely quick. He's one of the fastest drivers on the track at this point in time, although he didn't get the best of exits. Oh, he did. He got a better exit than Spork there out of the final turn before the sweepers, and I think, well, he's not going to be close enough for a move this time around, but he's going to get pretty darn close as they head towards the braking zone.
So with everybody in the top 11 cars on the same tyre compound until the first round of pit stops, this is essentially a sprint race now up to the first round of pit stops, and they'll all have to come in relatively at the same time as each other. Only Fabrizio Gobbi will be able to stay out. He'll probably be about second or third by the time the pit stops unravel, but Gobbi is going to have to try and go for the late pit stop undercut, and that really is going to be a difficult one to achieve here at Baku, because the tyres will only go to a certain length, especially when he's battling away with other cars out there. The man on the move, though, is Yannick Bock. He is starting to get that gap down to Janic Simoncic. Now that he has had the support of Leon Bock getting into third place, the team are essentially working in tag as they work towards the front end, and they try and get closer to the Burst Esport out in the lead of the race. It's not easy to make that work, but they can essentially use each other's slipstream to try and get that little bit further forward. Leon Bock can push Yannick a little bit, and that in turn will help Yannick get a little bit closer to Janic Simoncic. It's that little secret motivation. Meanwhile, this man, Stefan Rualt, is really starting to chip away at Colin Spork. And this is what I was saying. Spork's got amazing car control, and everything is set up beautifully for the corners. On the straights, that thing is a sitting duck, and everything that the Holland Racing team can throw at it on a straight line might be enough to overhaul Colin Spork. But there's no doubt that mechanical grip-wise, Colin Spork has got a very well set up car. Through the bends, that Edge Esport looks absolutely amazing. The problem is on the straights, where you need good top end speed and good slipstream, that isn't going to be enough.
He just can't match the evolutions on the straight. He really can't, and that's a shame, because that shows that it's a setup. I say issue. I mean, the car is obviously very good. It's obviously very fast. Although if you have the choice of a car that's fast in the straight lines and fast in the corners, you should always go for the former, because that's what's going to make the overtakes. But anyway, if you want to talk strategy, I think you'll have to be on the lookout for track positioning. This is a street circuit, so I don't think tyres are going to matter as much as they would on other circuits, so long as you come out with clean air, you don't get held up behind someone through the right angle corners and the castle section, and that's what's going to make the difference. So I think Gobbi here has gone for a good strategy, going for the medium compound tyre, because yes, he's dropping back in the early stages, but as soon as we get to the pit stages, he's suddenly going to find himself with a beautifully clean track in front of him, and whether it's going to be as effective as the undercut or not, I really don't know, but it all depends on how many cars they find blocking their paths.
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out that Fournier has made the move on Fabrizio Gobbi as well now. We're watching him on screen, having got his way into 13th place. There is Gobbi, down to 14th position. So he doesn't want to lose too many places in the opening phase of the Grand Prix, because obviously it is going to be very interesting to see just how hard he can hang on, because this is not an easy phase of the race at all, and all it takes is just one dropped wheel. We see how physical the cars get when they go over that curb on the midsection, on the end of the second sector. The car just travels so quickly and so violently over that curb that there's every chance it can just slide its way into the wall. Now look at how quickly Yannick Bock has caught up to Jonic Simoncic. He really has been eating up the road, and now he's there on DRS. We know how fast the evolution is in a straight line. Expect a bid for an overtaking move into turn 3. He gets a good exit off the turn. Simoncic won't have DRS. Yannick Bock will. This is where he's got a good opportunity on the straightaway. Surely now he's got an opportunity to go into turn 3, but he's not going to take it yet. It's too early.
Well, Jake, he didn't catch him quickly, he caught him suddenly. I think Simoncic may have made a bit of a mistake in the first sector on the last lap, because he lost 4 tenths. 3 wide further back, look at 10th place. It's Zappala, it's Kiersmakers, and into the wall. Into the wall goes Zappala. That was a case of 3 into 1, did not fit. And also, look at that, we've got, is that Rural missing?
Kiersmakers is out. Kiersmakers is out. That was just too hungry for Kiersmakers. I really want to see that again, because that initially had the ring of truth as a good move from Lauren Kiersmakers, but he just missed his braking point by a couple of meters, and that's all that it took. That's so ridiculously devastating for Zappala as well, because Zappala was having a good race, so was Kiersmakers. So Zappala now finds himself down at the back of the field. He's going to keep going by the look of it, but Kiersmakers is out of the race on the spot. Let's look back at it and have a look again, because Kiersmakers had them on the breakaway out of turn 2. Let's watch again. Look, he's got them into the slipstream. We slow right down. Look, he's missed his braking point at this point by just a meter or so, Kiersmakers, to make the move stick. And this is very sensible from Ragusa. Look, he's backed right out of it. He can see that something's coming. Kiersmakers drifts into the path of Zappala. Zappala's trying to turn in. Kiersmakers missed his braking point. There's no way he's making the corner. And Zappala essentially gets dragged in.
Bock's going for the lead, Jake. Bock's going for the lead, and he takes it. Yannick Bock is in the lead of the race in turn 1.
Well spotted. We were still watching the replay between Kiersmakers and Zappala, but yes, indeed, Yannick Bock has gone into the lead past Jonic Simoncic, and that was a bold maneuver, but now Simoncic is going to be the one with DRS on Yannick Bock. Can he retaliate? He's going to have to be very careful how he goes about it. I'm sure we'll get a replay of Yannick Bock making the move on Jonic Simoncic, but from what we heard there, it sounded like it was a perfectly clinical move and got the job done relatively decent. So let's have a look again. Yannick Bock on Jonic Simoncic for the lead. And I think this is just a pure case of DRS working beautifully to the inside line. Look, Simoncic doesn't even fight him. He lets him go. There's no way he needs to fight that at all, because he's got a good race strategy as long as he can hang on.
Indeed, that was beautifully done, and a relatively straightforward one with the slipstream and the DRS, and that's the importance of DRS, because he was struggling to catch up with Simoncic, and then as soon as he got within that magical 1 second buffer, he was able to fly through. So there we go. In fact, he's getting away from him now because it's difficult to follow in the castle section. So Yannick leads the race. What can Leon do about making it an Evolution 1-2? We'll see as they get onto the straight this time. Also, David Fidek passed Giuseppe Ragusa on that last lap. It's also worth noting Federico Russo is in real trouble here. He plowed straight into the accident to contain Zappala and Kiersmakers, and lost both of his wings. Zappala has now retired from the race, so that crash has now claimed 2 cars, may still claim a 3rd. But let's watch Bock down towards turn 1. Not close enough this time, but getting very close, and possibly the fastest car on the track right now.
Yeah, absolutely. A shame that we've lost Zappala and Kiersmakers, but that was just eyes being wider than the stomach for Kiersmakers. He was very greedy going into that left-hander. Here comes the move, surely from Bock. Simoncic doesn't have the straight line speed. He's fallen out of DRS range from Yannick. Is Leon going to go for it? No, he just doesn't want to make the gamble into that. We've already seen what happened between Kiersmakers and Zappala. It is a very high-risk maneuver into turn 3. It's far less of a risk to make that bid into turn 1, because you've got a little bit more runoff area to play with. You're not going on a collision course with the wall immediately off the apex. So he's obviously clearly thinking, well, I can still make the overtake. I'm clearly faster. Yannick is in front. We can make this Bock Brothers 1 and 2. Let's just play the game sensibly.
Indeed. So a beautiful battle at this point in the race. Very, very tense. Very, or not so much tense as it is energetic, with drivers ducking into different positions. And this lap, I wouldn't be surprised if it changes again. Bok is all over the back of Simoncic. And Spork, of course, if the drivers ahead of him are forced offline in turn 1 by the move that Bok might pull, could still gain an advantage. It really depends on whether he can fend off Stefan Roll. Here we go again, down towards the start-finish straight. Not sure that there's actually, I'm not sure they're quite as close as I thought they might be, but further back I think it's going to change, because we've got drivers, we've got Jeffrey Fournier, Matthias Moose, and who's that? Fabrizio Gobbi very close as well in the lower points scoring positions. Gobbi's still there despite being on the medium compound of tyre with the DRS. Settles for the position for now, but doing a decent job to hold that place. Hasn't had quite the start that he would have liked, but even so, still has the advantage of being the top driver on medium tyres. Everyone ahead of him needed to make the moves that they did, and they're lucky to have done so quickly. But with 10 laps to go, we're very nearly, or not very nearly, but we're approaching the strategy stages.
Yes, indeed we are. 3 retirements now, because Federico Russo, who ploughed into the crash of Germano Zappala and Lauren Kiersmakers, he's now out of the race as well. So we've lost Kiersmakers, Zappala and Russo after that very do-or-die manoeuvre from Lauren Kiersmakers. 3 into 1 at Baku is almost suicidal in terms of the extent of the move. And certainly it didn't work for Kiersmakers, as he missed his braking point by about a metre or so, but that was enough to drag both he and Germano Zappala into the barriers. Now Leon Bok must be sensing a little bit of frustration now building as he sits behind Simoncic, because he knows he's faster than him, but he needs to get close in the final straights to make that lunge to the inside. And the thing is, Simoncic is well set up for the midsection. He's got a good handle of the circuit when he goes through the slower sections, through the corners of the course, but on the straight and narrow, the Evolution car definitely has it set up perfectly. Now, is Leon Bok going to be close enough? No, I don't think he is. He certainly doesn't want to go banzai into the first corner. He might get a chance off turn 3. Here is Alessandro Quintai trying to make his bid on Maciej Mlonek for 7th position. That'll do. Not a bad run from the super sub. He's having a good race here.
That is good. I wasn't, I was expecting him to be very good, of course. Super Cup champion in the past, although this is very good from Alessandro Quinte. He's not just in the top 10, he is properly competitive in that top 10 at this point in time. Jeffrey Fournier now up into the top 10 as well. You know what people like to say about him, he's French and he likes to overtake. He's been living up to both of those things so far in this race. Now inside that top 10, Ragusa, Moose, Gobbi and Wach now in a chain directly behind, and ducking and weaving as they approach a braking zone.
Yeah,
anyway,
Matthias Mörs.
Towards the cast section.
That's so brave from Matthias Mörs. He's literally just swarming around left and right as if he's trying to outfox Ragusa just by winding him up, essentially. It's like, look, I'm going to go here. No, I'm going to go there. And it's trying to get him into a sense of false security, of unpredictability. Where is Mörs going to place the car? So Mörs doing a sensational job of just swarming around in the blind spot like an angry wasp at a picnic, just irritating Ragusa all the way around. And eventually he's hoping that Ragusa is going to make the mistake, but Mörs has not quite got the straight line speed to make that undercut maneuver. So we've lost 3 drivers, down to 23, and it's obviously going to be a very interesting battle. Chris Shepherd making the point that both Fidek and Jeff Fournier making great progress considering their start positions. They've been able to read the race around them, and they've made good progress just based on pure speed. Here comes Quintai to make another bid on right Kilk, but there's no way he can lunge on the inside line from that far back. He's just trying to seek out an opportunity. Meanwhile, the other Red Archer is going to make the lunge on Giuseppe Ragusa. That's a clean pass. No worries at all.
Indeed, I wouldn't be surprised if Alessandro Quinte comes back for the Adonis racing team in some of the remaining rounds of the season. If not all of them, we'll have to see how the situation unfolds down there at Adonis. Anyway, On DRS watch, still Simoncic and Buck have the DRS on, or at least Buck has the DRS from Simoncic. Simoncic's very close to getting the DRS from Yannick in front of him, but still not quite in that buffer yet. Colin Spork is dropping back from Leon Buck, and now it appears that his main rival is Stefan Ruhl in that battle for 4th position. Behind them, you've got Kilk versus Quinte, and Winnick now right with them as well. So Winnick in a 3-car battle with Kilk and Quinte. But Quinte, with his current trajectory up the field, is more likely to get past Kilk than anything else happening in that battle there. So that's how it's going up in front. David Feiduk doing a good job so far in P9. Not too bad from the veteran double champion that we have here. And then, of course, Fournier rounds out the top 10.
So far, so good. It is Yannick Bock that leads the way after his brilliant charge to the front. Jonas Simoncic looking for his first podium. Here comes Right Kilk. No, sorry, that's Alessandro Quintai. This time he is going to get a run on Right Kilk, and he gets up into P6. Good run from the Super Cup champion, Alessandro Quintai, moving his way up into 6th position. And here comes the run from Ragusa, dropping a little further back behind them. There's a very tight battle between Gobbi and Vark. I thought Vark was going to get squeezed to the wall there by Fabrizio Gobbi, but he just managed to leave enough space so that there wasn't a conflagration into the braking zone. My goodness, that got close as Eros Basciuli and Michael Francesconi continue their little tussle as well for the place just outside the points. Only the top 15 drivers score points. At the moment, it's Yannick Bock from Simoncic, then Leon Bock, Spork, Rualt, Quintai, Kilk, Mlanik and Feiduk, and then Fournier in 10th place from Mus, Ragusa, Gobbi, Vark, and the final point likely to go to Stepkovski as the way things currently stand.
That did get close. Also, Jake, I'm afraid we've lost Christian Pascal because he just spun out of the race. So 22 cars remaining. Sandeep Singh just made a pit stop and dropped to the back. Not entirely sure why, but anyway, so 22 cars still remaining from this 26-car race.
And Leon Bock still getting frustrated, sat behind Jurnic Simoncic. We may or may not find out in a replay what happened to Christian Pascal, although, of course, it is one of the minor positions, and it certainly hasn't caused an issue for anybody else out there, because he now finds himself alone on the circuit. 20 cars up towards the sharp end, only Mirko Lucchini and Sandeep Singh behind them. Florian Gaia in the Epic in 20th position at this moment in time. His teammate David Feiduk running in P9. So the battle still joined. And look, Leon Bock just can't quite get close enough to Jurnic Simoncic. He just can't quite make the move. And he's not able to get close enough to him at the critical point on the circuit. The only chance he gets is really on the run to turn 3. And Leon Bock does not want to throw away a podium finish with a late lunge into turn 3 on Jurnic Simoncic. He wants the chance into turn 1. He gets a good opportunity every lap here, and he could make that overtake if he just rolled off the brake a little bit earlier into the apex. But I just don't think he wants to take that bigger gamble. They're in a good position here, Evolution. They can make massive gains on Adonis, and they can certainly get up there in terms of bagging some points today. They've got to be thinking about the long-term game.
So Right Kilk just pitted from 8th place, so we are in the...
But certainly that shows you how close it is on the exit. Let's have a look. So Jurnic Simoncic and Leon Bock still battling for second, but let's look at how close it got for Right Kilk as he came out of the pit lane. Here it comes. That's a clean exit. It's clean, it's clean. He goes for the maneuver. Oh, an early turn-in from Giuseppe Lino, but that's a normal racing line. And they've just about stayed out of trouble. Goodness me, that's as close as it gets without absolute disaster. I can tell you for a fact that it's Kilk who got through. And into the pits comes Simoncic and Bock. Oh, no, sorry, that's Bock who comes in. Spork is into the pits as well. So Spork is in. And Rualt as well. So this is all coming down to fast pit stops. So now the big guns are coming in. Bock and Simoncic, that's Yannick and Simoncic, all staying out. But Quintai up to 3rd, Mlinek in 4th place now. So let's see how things go for Bock, Spork and Rualt. They all came in together, and it's all leaving at about the same time with the same gap between them. Now, is there going to be traffic for Leon Bock on the exit? Not even a little bit. Look at that. And he's actually jumped Colin Spork in the pit stops. Excellent work for Leon Bock.
And he's got a couple of seconds to Thomas Schwark in front of him. So that was the best possible situation there from Leon Bock. Of course, he was ahead of Spork already, but he's gained time on him there. Only a little bit, but every little helps. So it's Bock 9th now on the road, with Spork 10th and Raw 11th, although that is of course because the pit stages have thrown off the order a little. Alessandro Quinte is now in 3rd position on the road, with Simoncic in 2nd, and some of those drivers who I've just mentioned will be pitting very, very soon. So anyway, let's see if anyone comes in this lap, Jake.
Yeah, we should indeed. I should mention that I said, of course, that Leon Bock had jumped Colin Spork. I did, of course, know that he was already ahead of him. What I meant was more in terms of time and momentum, because he was a lot further ahead of Colin Spork on the exit of the pit lane than he was on the way into it. Let's see about Yannick Bock and Janis Simoncic. Have they pitted? Yes, Yannick Bock comes into the pits. So Yannick Bock boxes from the lead. And is Simoncic in as well? Yes, he is. So this is all about Leon Bock. How much of a gain has he made in the pit stops? Can he leapfrog past Janis Simoncic into 2nd position? Yannick Bock is going to stop in his box.
Quinte's also in, so Maciej Winnick leads the race temporarily.
Yes, indeed he does. But let's have a look at the exit. Leon Bock is going to come to the braking zone. Yannick Bock should be absolutely fine on the exit. He will retake the lead. What about Simoncic? Leon Bock going very quickly. Simoncic is there on the pit exit. There's going to be nothing between them. Can Leon Bock beat him out? No, he can't. Oh my goodness. That is as close as it gets, but there's cars battling in front of them. Leon Bock has got 1 lap of temperature in those tyres up to speed already. Yannick Bock trying to get past Thomas Vac. Watch for Bock. The Simoncic defends. Holds it to the inside line as Yannick Bock gets past Vac. Simoncic defends from Leon Bock. Excellent.
And now they've got cars who they're not really fighting with for position, but they are fighting with on track. You've got Tomasz Vok in there, who's already been passed by Yannick Bock, and then just ahead of them Fabrizio Gobbi, who just passed Tomasz. So this is going to get a little spicy. Let's see who can get past Vok the quickest. That is of course if Work doesn't come into the pit soon. He is on the soft compound tyre, and he started on that tyre, so he is well due a pit stop, as is Winnick, who leads the race. This is looking very exciting. David Feidek is 2nd so far, at least on the road. Winnick leads by 5 seconds. Now we're heading towards the start-finish straight once again, and still Simoncic and Leon are stuck behind Tomasz, and that means that Yannick can start to build a little bit of a gap. But now this is where Bock transitions from hindering the drivers behind him to helping them with the slipstream and the DRS.
Yeah, this is going to be critical. And look, Leon Bock has not been able to keep the momentum to Simoncic. There goes Vak to the pit lane. So Vak goes in, and look at how much time Simoncic has been able to pull back on Leon Bock just by being sat behind Vak and then using the slipstream from DRS down the main straight. It's as you were, gentlemen. Although Yannick Bock is definitely not as far ahead of Janis Simoncic as he used to be. So it's actually Simoncic that has made the biggest gain through the first pit stop sequence.
Winnick came in there. He comes out just behind Alessandro Quinte. And I think he was ahead of him before this, so hasn't Quinte just jumped Winnick? Unless I'm very much mistaken, but anyway, Panther and Masculi fighting just behind them with... Ooh, that was close into the braking zone, but they get away with it. David Feidek now leads the race. It's been a while since we've said that, but he does, and that's by just 2 seconds over Fabrizio Gobbi, who's just about to hold up Bock, Simoncic and Bock. At this rate. Colin Spork there is caught right up to Leon Bock in all of this as well. So Spork, although he lost time, has gained it back again with the traffic, and they're not out of the woods yet because you've still got Gobbi and you've still got potential backmarkers in the future.
Yeah, it's very much stalemate. That's a very good point. And so Colin Spork pushing very hard indeed. I think he might have just undercut that curve a little bit too much. He could get a warning for track limits there, as Colin Spork really trying to utilise this opportunity to get closer to Leon Bock. He knows that the 2 cars in front have still got to pit. Feidek will be the last one into the pits from the group of drivers that started on the soft compound. He will come into the pits later, not now. That's interesting. So Feidek's just going to make those tyres go a little bit longer. Gobbi is on the... no, he does pit. I do apologise. So he does pit in. It's Gobbi that stays out longer because he's on the mediums. Here comes Quintai trying to get his run on Francesconi. Now, Francesconi, of course, is on the mediums and was at the start. So this is nice and easy going for Alessandro Quintai. It's not big pressure for him as he goes into the first corner. So it's now Gobbi leading the race, half a second ahead of Yannick Bock. Surely that's going to change very soon indeed as we watch Razguza battling away with Matthias Muss. Pit stops galore as well. There's a few more drivers coming in. We know Fidek's in, but Gaia, his teammate, is in as well. So they're going to double stack, or at least come very close to double stacking. They can't actually double stack anymore in Super League. I used to see it a few times. Look how tough this is for Maciej Mlanek now as he closes up on Michael Francesconi in the Mayor Downard car. He's got time and position and speed to make the move, but does he want to make the gamble? Of course he doesn't, not on this tight of circuit.
Indeed, and Yannick Buck there just setting the fastest lap of the race as well. Do they get a point for that in this series?
I do believe they do, yes, they do.
So that's an extra point there to our championship leader Yannick Buck, but it's still very early in the race, so I can imagine that's going to change again later on. Yannick has to get past Gobi on track, because Gobi isn't pitting anytime soon. He is on the medium compound of tyre, which can go a little further than the soft tyre, and further than this as well. So unless Gobi makes a uncharacteristically early pit stop, Yannick Buck is going to have to pass him on track. Here we go with the DRS. Gobi over to the left side. Is he coming in potentially? I'd be surprised.
He is, you know.
Yes, he is. Okay, well that's a little early. So Buck does take the lead back, and that makes things easier for Yannick here.
It's baffling why Gobi would come in so early. He's only made the tyres go 19 laps. And you would have thought that would be a little bit longer into the race for him. But Fabrizio Gobi, well, changes the tyres. Maybe it's just not working as a strategy, so he's got to shake it up a bit. Francesconi and Mashuli into the pits as well. Panzar in as well. So a lot of the drivers then that were on the medium tyres, maybe they just can't work that much longer than the softs. Maybe there isn't that much difference between them in terms of compound. Raguzi and Gobi on exit! Careful, boys! Goodness me, the cardinal sin of racing is do not hit your teammate, and we just had a massive flirtation with that.
You don't want to have two. Oh, and they're going three wide again. We've seen how that ended before. Look at that. And Matthias Moos just gets away with it and passes Giuseppe Ragusa in the process. But yeah, you don't want two cars from the same team side by side on pit exit. It's hard enough having two cars of any team side by side on pit exit. And Fabrizio Gobi gets the better of them, but it was close.
Unfortunately, Giuseppe Ragusa just kind of bottled out of that one. He realised that it was going to be too high pressure, and Mus absolutely played in there. He gave him an opportunity to make a decision, back out of it and give me the corner, or let's have an accident. And Ragusa chickened out to a certain extent there. Mus didn't have a massive claim to the corner. He had the inside line, but he was being quite audacious on the braking. If Ragusa had stuck to his guns on the outside line, he probably would have been able to hold it round the outside and keep the place, but he just got spooked, and that was enough for Matthias Mus to get the position. So now Stefan Rualt trying to keep close to Colin Spork. He's got DRS, don't forget. Spork should still just about have it to the man in front of him. So it is stalemate once again in the top five. Now here's Fabrizio Gobi going for Jeff Fournier. And let's not forget that Gobi has now got a fresh set of softs on board. So he's going to be rapid around this course. Here he goes for Fournier. Pops out behind. Goes to the left side. That's where Fournier puts him. This is going to be an absolute clinical maneuver for Gobi. Or is it? He's going to have to blend very late into the corner to get past Fournier. Misses it on the exit. Fournier's coming straight back at him. Fournier is going to battle with him, holds to the inside line again. Ragusa keeps it around the outside. They're still side by side as they go down towards turn 3 now. Gobi, I should say, and Fournier having an absolutely terrific battle as they continue to duel for position. And Gobi has to concede. Well played by Fournier.
That's the battle of the two biggest fan clubs in this series, potentially. I don't know if they are quite the biggest, but both of those quite popular drivers, in Fournier's case, very popular. But anyway, both of those getting away with it, with Fournier in 10th and Gobi in 11th. I imagine they'll be higher up than that at the end of this Grand Prix. But anyway, that's how it stands. Buck there increasing his, speeding up his fastest lap of the race, improving on, that's the word I was looking for, on that last lap, and may do it again on this next lap, because he is feeling the pressure from Simoncic behind and responding to it very well indeed. What's happened to Panzer? He's just had a crash. Panzer's crashed.
Yeah, so Panzer down and out of it. Oh dear, and I think that's going to be a race-ending maneuver for him. Let's not forget, he was up in the top 10 at one stage. So Panzer is going to be out of this one almost without question. Yellow in sector 1. I think that's down at turn 3, is it? Or is it turn 4?
No, it thinks he's at sector 1, but he's actually on the other side of the track, and he's gone far enough into the... He went far enough into the the runoff area, it classified him as being on the other side of the track.
Oh, right.
But anyway, yeah, what happened there is he missed the corner at turn 7 and knocked his rear wing off while doing a spin turn, and he's got heavily damaged rear suspension, so I'm surprised he's trying to recover that.
Well, let's have a look at it. I think he has now retired from the race. Let's have a look at how it happened. So this is Panzer. He was down at the back of the field. Oh, he's just gone straight on. I've not seen anything like that before. And then he's banged his wheel against the wall. It seemed like he just missed his braking point. And what does he do here? Well, he just tries to get back going again, and he hasn't really been able to make a good run of it, because they can't get the car righted. So unfortunate for Robin Panzer, but that is pretty much game over as far as any chance of points are concerned, unless he just, well, I suppose you could just keep going. You could see him there on the other side of the circuit recovering back to the pits, but that's any chance of a decent finish for Robin Panzer wiped out.
Yeah, and he has been a little, well, I think disappointing is harsh, although he hasn't scored points yet this season, won't score them today at this rate. And, well, his teammate, on the other hand, has been very good and very consistent, Yanni Simoncic, who could still win this race. So Panzer, I was thinking that he'd have a better chance today, because despite the grid penalty, it's Baku, and he was in an alternate strategy, but I'm afraid he's blown it. That is, unless it was braking trouble, because we saw, of course, in the Super Cup race, and yes, it's very early for braking trouble, but we saw in the Superleague, the Super Cup race, that drivers were having their brakes fade, especially those who were in traffic or who were pushing hard, and sometimes you'd end up with drivers heading straight on down escape roads and into barriers as a result. So maybe that's the case. He did seem to just kind of slow and miss the corner, but anyway, whatever the case, it's the same result.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation, isn't it? And a very, very tough situation, as we mentioned. Now, the top 5, pretty much stalemate and unchanged compared to what we saw in the first round of pit stops. It's Yannick Bock in front of Adonis Simoncic, then Leon Bock, Colin Spork, Stefan Rualt. These are the 5 that will battle for the victory. And it could be any one of the 5 of them. I mean, we know that in raw pace, the Evolution cars have the strongest pace. But let's be honest, they don't have that much more speed than the Burst Esports of Adonis Simoncic. It's not like they've dropped him. He's still within a second and a half of the race lead. So it could still go anybody's way in that top 5. All it takes is one big mistake and the race completely changes on its head. And we're told from Rodrigo Carvalho that the likelihood of Robin Panzer's retirement could be brake failure. That's probably a very decent argument, because obviously there are some very big stops on this circuit. You've got some very fast sections, including this one, of course, and this part in particular is very punishing on brakes, because you've got to go very heavy on the brakes, turn it in exactly the right moment, and you might even need to dab the brake again if you've not quite got it right. And then you've got massive braking into turn 1, huge braking into turn 3, another big braking offset into turn 7 as well. So it's not exactly a massive shock if there is brake failure. Fabrizio Gobbi on the soft tyres, he is absolutely lighting the lap times here. The fastest times so far are in the 140s, the low 140s. He's looking like he could get a 139 here even. So this is a very good run on the lap from Fabrizio Gobbi. We need to keep an eye on the lap time as Ragusa battles with Mus, tries to keep it right round the outside. Oh, go on, mate, get stuck in. I almost thought he was going to hold that. Matthias Mus, though, is going to take the place. That was well fought by Ragusa. And yes, Fabrizio Gobbi has just done a 139.848. There you go.
First driver in the 139s over the course of this race. That's very good from Fabrizio, and he's going to pass Feidek. Ooh, he almost went for it down there. That would have been a late one, an opportunistic one at that. But anyway, Gobbi extremely fast at this point in time. Over the back of the double champion.
Still watching Mus and Ragusa. That got a little bit personal. There was a little bit of affection going on between those two. A little bit of light petting as they went into the braking zone for turns 5 and 6. They were just about able to get round the corner without too much drama, but that was pushing it a little bit, those two. Ragusa getting very frustrated, sat behind Matthias Mus, and no wonder, because Thomas Vach is right there in 13th position to try and get his own impression on this race. But Fabrizio Gobbi, the fastest driver on track at the moment, running in P10 behind David Feidek. So it'll be interesting to see just how much of a gain he can make on the soft compound. There, here's Leon Bock being chased by Colin Spork. We're on looking at Colin Spork down in the first corner, but again, it's stalemate. They need something to shake this up in the top 5. There's nothing really between them. 5.5 seconds covering the 5 cars in that fight for victory. Now, Gobbi on the faster tyre. Feidek is getting close to Maciej Mlinek. So Fidek might get an overtaking move there on Maciej Mlinek before Gobi can get close enough to him. Fidek's going to have a look on the inside of right Kilk, because Mlinek is actually in front of Kilk. I assumed that it was Mlinek in front. My apologies, it's right Kilk who is there in position. So David Fidek may get a run into 3. Depends on how brave he's feeling, especially now that Gobi is right underneath him. They'll both get DRS, Fidek and Gobi. Kilk will not. So is anybody going to be brave enough? Fidek has a look. Not close enough to just go gung-ho.
Indeed. As for Robin Panzer, he is still Oh, wait, no, he's not. He was still circulating, but now he's out of the race again.
Yep.
So 21 cars remaining in this race now, all of them on the lead lap. But that's a shame for Robin, especially if it wasn't his fault and if it was brakes.
Yes, indeed. Now, Gobi getting very hectic behind Fidek. Yellow in Sector 1, apparently. So something's happened there in Sector 1. But it has been able to correct itself fairly quickly. So maybe just a slight off there for someone. Maybe a quick 360. But certainly Fidek and Gobi absolutely at each other's throats at the moment, as Fidek is just trying to stay with right Kilk and go for the ultimate lunge and the overtake. But he just can't quite get close enough. And now that we're into the tight and twisty section, they've just gone through high 5 and now down the drop of the square left and into the final section of the course, where they go into Sector 3, where it's the left-hand turn in, and then it's on the throttle the whole way, hoping you're not going to get washed out by the dirty air of the car in front. Gobi still swarming around behind David Fidek. Now they're going to get an opportunity to see how close they can get, because Fidek isn't quite going to get close enough to right Kilk in front. But Gobi, on those soft tyres, the same as Fidek, is going to have an interesting crack at David Fidek. The thing is, with both of them on the softs, they're definitely providing a bit of a threat to right Kilk in front, but they're too evenly matched to have a genuine squabble. They've both got to get through right Kilk fairly quickly to make use of having the softer compound of tyre.
Well, here we go. He's not quite going to go for it there, but we'll get more DRS on the exit, will Gobi. And of course, he was gaining on Fidek so quickly, but then the turbulent air arrested his momentum, and also right Kilk in front of him means that Fidek also has DRS down the straight, so that's making it extra difficult for Gobi, who takes a look to the inside and tries to force Fidek offline, and it worked to an extent, but it wasn't able to go for the overtake. That was a little feisty. He's clearly getting a little frustrated here, but I wouldn't blame him. He was going so much quicker before catching up to these two.
Yeah, Fidek swarming around all over the place as if to say to right, come on, man, just get off the pot, get out of the way. You can see that we're both going faster than you. Move it, mate. We're on it. We are pushing harder. And the thing is, Fabrizio Gobi did not want to get held up behind Fidek here. He really did not want this to happen. He had a good strategy on the cards here. He could have been running towards top 6, top 7 without Fidek blocking him. And Gobi essentially has a better setup car than Fidek, but he's on the same tyres. So he's actually come out in the worst possible position. He's fighting with another soft shod car who is battling with another medium soft car. And he can't quite make the opportunity work. He can't quite utilize and unlock the advantage he's got. He's clearly got a faster car than these guys in front, but he can't use it. Now Fidek's got a chance to go for Kilk. Kilk is swarming around. He's going to stand his ground. Fidek's going to make the plunge anyway, and he will get through without any opposition at all. But this is not good news for Fabrizio Gobi. It's still going to take him another couple of corners to get past right Kilk. And Gobi is going to hemorrhage time here when he really didn't need to.
Yeah, indeed. And you were saying earlier that they were saying to get on with it or get out of the way, but the fact is they've got to find a way through themselves. You're never going to have it handed to you on a silver plate, especially considering that these drivers are rivals, both on track and in the championship. Little twitch there from Riot Kill. Gobi got a little bit of a better run, but there was just a car in the way. There's no way to make an overtake on a straight that short. So now he's going to take another look down into turn 7. Remember a few laps ago when he almost dived onto David Fidek in that corner. Almost did the same thing to Riot Kilk. Now up through the castle section, and for the next maybe half a minute or so, there's going to be absolutely no chance of even getting alongside Riot Kilk. So that's going to increase the frustration for Fabrizio Gobi, increase the willingness to get through, to get up into 9th place.
Well, he's clearly convinced that he can force right Kilk into making the mistake, because he's clearly being very audacious about where he positions the car, where he positions himself. He clearly feels that he's got an opportunity, and the objective is clear. He just needs to be a little bit more assertive when he makes the move. Now, this is his best chance that he's going to have on right Kilk, and Kilk really is in between a rock and a hard place now. He's got to get out of the way, really. He's got to think about his own move, his own race. Gobby's going to absolutely nail him here on the straight. He's not going to be close enough. He makes the move a lot later than I thought he would, actually, but Gobby gets there on the braking zone. Now, that was clever from right Kilk. He actually blended out of the corner a bit earlier by a couple of meters, hoping that he could get a switchback maneuver on Fabrizio Gobby, because from right Kilk's point of view, he's racing him. He's not a back marker. He doesn't have to play second fiddle to him. He can race him. And, of course, he's going to get DRS here, while Gobby is not, because Fidek has pulled a little bit further away from him. So right Kilk, unfortunate not to get a decent switchback off the corner, because he had the right idea there, but it's quite clear who is boss in that particular scenario. Now, Leon Bock still third, Colin Spork still fourth, Ruout fifth. Was that a big mistake from Stefan Ruout there?
Yeah, he went wide into the castle section.
He did indeed, didn't he? He lost completely the car in the dirty air, and that's going to drop him a good half second to 3/4 of a second off the back wing of Colin Spork's car. So he's got to reset and go all over again. And that's how difficult the dirty air is. I'd quite like to see that again, actually, because you can see just how big a contrast there is in terms of driving lines between Spork and Ruout there. It doesn't seem like much, but when you're battling for the victory and you're only about 7 seconds apart with 5 cars, that is a race moment that Ruout is going to rue very deeply indeed, because DRS means everything on these long straights. And that's really going to sacrifice him. In terms of momentum, it actually gives a big advantage to Colin Spork psychologically, because he will have looked back and seen Ruout smaller in his mirrors and realised, well, I'm definitely making more of a go of this than Stefan Ruout is. So I'm doing a much better job. They're going down the back straight now, getting close towards Leon Bock again. But Colin Spork is not quite close enough still to challenge. But this gives him a little bit more momentum. I want to see that again. Oh, he's just struck the wall! Colin Spork has just struck the wall as he came through there. Well, they're now starting to make mistakes. This is what I was talking about. Let's look at Ruout's incident first. Then we might be able to look back at Colin Spork making that big error, because that will have potentially got suspension damage. Now, here's Ruout's mistake up the castle. Watch. Look, he actually struck the wall, I think. I think he tapped the wall as he went through to the left-hand apex. Let's look again. He comes through, and that's going to be some contact with the wall. Look, bang! He just scrapes it, and he was lucky that that did not end his race. He was very fortunate there, Stefan Ruout. He manages to keep going, but that could have been, and possibly should have been, a race-ending incident. Meanwhile, Colin Spork has got away with murder as well. But you can see at this place just how narrow the margin is between victory and defeat. It's millimeters in getting that wall wrong.
Honestly, I think they're going to be okay, because every driver is going to strike a barrier at least once in this race in that kind of manner. But anyway, they seem to have got away with it. But that may have rattled their confidence a little. Stefan is already back onto the tail of Colin. He's already back in the DRS range, and I don't really think that it'll matter much that Stefan made a mistake there, because after all, Colin can only go as fast as the turbulent air from Leon Bock's car will let him, and that of course allows Ruout to catch up in no time at all. But anyway, DRS once again active on the back straight. Goodness, his hiccups get the better of me. But now they both lost the DRS from Leon with their respective mistakes. And this is the point on the track where Leon made his a lap ago. So now Leon will see them getting smaller in the mirrors, and he'll have the confidence to say, right, I've got a chance here, let's make the most of it.
Fidek versus Gobby, here we go again. This is an absolute belter of a battle between these two, and Gobby makes the mistake. Oh, he just got too close to Fidek, and he's dropped a couple of car legs there. Oh, Fabrizio, he had a good chance there. I think he just got, again, a little too hungry on Fidek. Frustration was bubbling over there, and he makes a big mistake into the braking zone. I wonder if he's having brake issues. That could have been his mistake, but it could also have been a slight brake failure, because if it's starting to go now for a couple of the cars, it would not surprise me if it was starting to happen at this point in the race. Don't forget that we've still got 20 laps to go at the end of the next one. So there's a long way for these cars still to motor to the end of the race. And if they're going to struggle with anything around here, it is going to be brakes.
No, I think he'll be okay. I think that he just got too close to the back of Fidet's car and had to back out of it to avoid ploughing straight in there and causing a big accident. The only car that I think has properly had braking issues is Robin Pansar's, because I just looked back at why he retired and it appeared he had another braking issue into turn 1. And yes, he got the brakes back for a bit, that's why he was able to circulate after that. Now, Mirko Lucchini's just retired from the race, so I'm going to take a look at that and see if that was potentially brakes. He was already running in 21st position, so maybe he's given up by himself, but it does appear he had an accident actually down into one of the 90-degree left-handers. So I'm afraid 20 cars now remaining in the race.
Okay, well, we'll keep an eye on what happened there to Lucchini, because it was obviously always very interesting to see why these drivers fall by the wayside. We have a replay of it, so let's have a look at what happened to Mirko Lucchini to end his race. And he's just gone very deep into the left-hander, carrying too much speed by the look of it, as he actually scraped the barrier on the way through. I wonder if that just threw him into the wall. He hasn't quite got the car turned in enough by the look of it, and then the car is lost, scrapes the barrier, the car is crabbed, the rear wing is gone, and that's race over. Unfortunate for Lucchini.
Anyway, so Yannick Buck now still leading the race. We're just over the halfway point in this event, a couple of laps over it now, and we were being told before the race that we have, or that we're expecting 2-stop strategies from most of these drivers, so still we've got to look out for those in the latter stages of this race. Not really that much more time to make them though, because we've only got about 11 laps left, so actually I'm not, oh sorry, 21, I got my maths wrong there. Ignore me, we still got time.
Unfortunately, I couldn't quite ignore you. I was mid-sneeze in the middle of all that. I didn't want to give that to the listeners somehow. In the middle of COVID-19, I didn't want to give the listeners a sneeze they didn't want to hear. Anyway, Maciej Mlinek battling away with Alessandro Quintai over 6th position. Mlinek getting quite close to the Italian as they come back onto the back straight. Is Mlinek going to have an opportunity to run on at Quintai? Quintai certainly trying to pull out of the stream. Yellow in sector 2 apparently. Has somebody dropped it there? I think we've lost somebody briefly. I think the race has been able to continue for them, but certainly somebody has dropped a long way back. I wonder, is it Fournier? Has Fournier dropped a little bit further back? We're yellow in sector 3 now. So is that 1 or 2 incidents? Oh, it's Lino. It's Lino. We've lost Lino. So Giuseppe Lino has had an accident somewhere now. So the Ghost Speed ADG is now out of the race. We'll have to try and figure out what happened to him. Another race retirement. We're down to 19 now. Do you remember a couple of races ago where we only had 1 retirement in Super League, and now we've got 7 of them gone here at Baku?
Yeah, it was a big one, Jake. He clipped the wall in a very similar way to the way that Raw and Spork did, but he didn't get as lucky because he lost his rear wing, causing the car to spear across the track and absolutely pummel the barriers.
Oh, that's a nasty one from Giuseppe Lino. That's an absolute car destroyer. And there's no way back from that one. Once you go that fast, that hard, and that's particularly into the left sweeper on the run to the braking zone at the end of Sector 2 as well. So there's no way that car is going to be drivable once you come back to a stop to try and control it again. So unfortunate there for Giuseppe Lino. He just seemed to lose traction mid-apex. As here comes Maciej Mlinek on the inside of Quintai. This is for best of the rest, don't forget, behind the leading 5. And look, Quintai just gave him the corner. There's no point trying to battle him. He's got every chance if he bails out that Mlinek might just overshoot and he can get him back again on the exit. And now, of course, Quintai is going to be the man who has DRS. So he's going to be the one charging after Maciej Mlinek down to the left-hander. The problem he's got now is that he gave Mlinek a little bit too much room when he came off the corner. So now he's actually given him a little bit too much space. So he can't get him back on the switch. Now, this is going to be interesting between Bok and Simoncic. It's pretty much stalemate, and I'm very impressed indeed with Adonis Simoncic in particular, because he's only lost a second to Yannick Bok in the entirety of this second split. So he's really worked the tyres very well and kept himself in the hunt. Got to give a lot of shout out to Colin Spork, because he has caught right up to Leon Bok.
Indeed. So Colin Spork now right on the tail of Leon Bok. the trouble will be overtaking him. We haven't seen Colin overtake anyone today, apart from, I'm not sure if he has overtaken Baku yet or anything, but Spork has been struggling in the straight line, especially compared to the Evolution cars, which seem absolutely rapid. Oh, goodness, my word. Sorry, I'm choking.
Something went down the wrong way. Goodness me. Right, Leon Bock hanging on to third position in front of Colin Spork, but Spork has definitely got DRS. So this is where the race can be won and lost in the battle for third position. Into the pits comes Rualt. So Rualt makes the pit stop. So now we're going to get the second run of pit stops. And out onto the circuit again comes Florian Gaia after his latest pit stop. So he rejoins behind Colin Spork. And Rualt is going to rejoin in and around, I would say probably just in front of Kilk. And when he gets going again, he might just go behind him. Yellow in sector 3 by the look of it, so someone may have dropped it. But out onto the circuit goes Rualt, and indeed he does rejoin in 9th position, just in front of Ragusa, because Kilk comes in on the same lap as well.
And Singh's crashed.
Oh, we've had a crash. Yeah, we've had a crash, and it. Who is it that's gone, did you say? Sandeep Singh. Okay, so we're going to need to have a look at that one, because that's obviously going to put him in the second of the Adonis cars out of the race. A rather unfortunate situation. But let's have a look at it and see what happened as Kilk comes into the pits. Sandeep Singh is at the same place. It's a corner later. Bang! And Kilk went with him. Oh, right.
It's Moose.
Oh, I do apologise. It's Mus that went with him, so it's the other Red Arrow that went with him. So unfortunate there. Mus just basically went to the scene of the same accident, didn't he? Sometimes when you're just following in the tunnel vision with the car in front, you just end up going to the scene of the accident. Apparently, Right Kilk has had an accident in the pit lane, according to David Yunt. So we're going to need to watch that one back as well, because Right Kilk has apparently had a crash in the pit lane, which is very bad news indeed. Sandeep Singh has retired, as you mentioned. Mus has got damage. Kilk has had an accident in the pit lane. In just a matter of seconds, the Red Arrow race has just imploded in on itself.
Well, if that is the case, then that's very bad for the Red Arrows, because as you said, Moose did have damage and he came into the pits, and yeah, he was okay, so it must have been Kilk that had the incident. I'll see if I can look out for that one, but yeah, it's easy to follow someone to the scene of an accident in that corner, because the racing line is right against the barriers, and so if someone has an accident in front of you, you've just got nowhere to go.
Yeah, not so much acrobatic from the Red Arrow team, more apoplectic, unfortunately, as the two cars just completely pummel-dash their way around the circuit in that lap. Stepkowski in the pits, as side-by-side Colin Spork rejoins from his pit stop, side-by-side with Fabrizio Gobbi, and gets out in front of him. That's really important from Colin Spork's point of view. He needed to beat him out of the pits. He needed to get the advantage, so this is quite crucial in terms of Colin Spork's race. Now, is that Gobbi having made his second pit stop now? I'm fairly sure it might be. So if Gobbi's made his second pit stop, I'll have to look at the number of pit stops, which means that Gobbi is now very much a part of this race battle now, because he's right in there with Colin Spork, and he could get ahead of Stefan Rualt at the pit. In fact, he has got ahead of Stefan Rualt at the pit stops. No, Gobbi has only pitted once, according to that graphic. So Gobbi has only pitted once, so he has got to pit again. That just shows you how much time he lost being stuck behind Fidek, because he's now really going to struggle to get himself back into a competitive position when all of the musical chairs have stopped moving.
And apparently we've got a mistake to show you in a replay.
Yes, indeed, it's Right Kilk, the pit lane accident. So let's see what happened to Right Kilk. He's into the pits. Oh, no! He's gone full DC. Oh, dear, Right Kilk spinning on his way into the pit lane. That is an unfortunate problem there. He lost the front wing in that one as well. So a big problem for Right Kilk. So that obviously needed another big issue. The Red Archers having a very difficult day at the office and a very horrible few seconds. Now into the pits comes Fabrizio Gobbi. And out of the pits goes Leon Bock. So Leon Bock out behind Colin Spork. That's big for this race, because Leon Bock, I'm fairly sure, was ahead of Colin Spork initially. So Colin Spork has jumped Leon Bock in the pit stops.
Oh, that's good from Spork there. Now, he needed to do so because, as I said, he's struggling to pass him on track. So he needed to have a stunning outlap, and that's exactly what he's done. He's maximised his advantage in the twistier bits, and got ahead of Leon Buck. Now it's all going to be about whether he can pull enough of a gap to stay ahead of him. Also into the pits on that last lap were Winnick and Fidok and various other cars as well. So plenty of people in. Not sure that Winnick actually was there. I may be talking rubbish, but I know that Fidok, yeah, Winnick was, sorry. But I know that Fidok was for sure. So now, of course, we're waiting for the leaders, Yannick Buck, Yoni Simoncic, etc. And they will be in very, very shortly. Buck extending his margin, but he's in the pits.
Yes, indeed. Oh, Kilk is desperately trying to hang out in front of Eros Mashuli. He's essentially taking 3 corners to get him moved up. Oh, it's not going to be easy. They tap wheels. And right, Kilk takes 4 corners to get an overtaking move done that should have only taken 1, as he just doesn't quite commit to the inside apex on the first attempt. He could have been a little bit more confident in himself and finished that move off quite simply. Bok and Simoncic, as you mentioned, in the pit lane, and Colin Spork might even have the momentum to split them at this point. Yannick Bok comes out of the pits. Where is Simoncic? At pit exit, he's not quite close enough, Colin Spork. He's done the best he can, but he has leapfrogged past Leon Bok, and that means we're going to have 3 different teams on the podium if it finishes like this. Where is Stefan Rualt? There he is. They've really dropped him. It's now nearly a 4-horse race.
They had a second on him before, or maybe a second and a half before the pit stop, and now they've got maybe 3.5 seconds there. 4.5, sorry. So yeah, Leon getting away from Stefan Ruhl, and of course Spork's really got away from him because he's put a car between them in the net order. The battle for the lead, or the gap for the lead, is 2 seconds. That's about what I expected it to be between Buck and Simoncic. But we're in the final stage of the race now. 15 laps to go. So it's all going to be about what they can do on the final sprint. As for the rest of the pack, still some drivers yet to make their last stop. So it's impossible to tell the exact net order. Although it's looking to be the standard top 5 that we were expecting after earlier in the race, and then potentially matching Winnick in 7th, although Alessandro Quinte is also a contender.
Yes, indeed. Fastest lap of the race from Colin Spork does a 1:39.2. A very quick lap indeed there from Colin Spork. That was when he was trying to get closer to the 2 guys in front and obviously to stretch out a little bit of a gap. Thomas Vac needs to make another pit stop. He's in 6th position. That will hand 6th place back to Machim Lenek in front of Alessandro Quintai. Fair play to Jeff Fournier. He has made himself net 8th position from this race. Fidek is technically 9th. Gobby is effectively 10th. This is excellent work from those guys, in particular the likes of Fournier, Fidek and Gobby. Gobby missed opportunity in terms of the strategy. It just didn't quite go according to plan, but he's had amazing speed. And then you've got Fournier and Fidek, who have worked their way back up through the mire, and they are both solidly in the top 10. Excellent work from them. Into the pits comes Thomas Vark, who was the last one in the top 6, who needed to make a pit stop. He will drop out of the top 10, but not out of the points. So Thomas Vac will still have a chance of scoring some decent points from this race. Leon Bock has now stepped up the attack again to close up on Colin Spork, as into the pits comes Jeff Fournier. That's the 3rd time. That's the 3rd pit stop for Fournier.
I don't think it is, actually. I've counted 2, but I may be wrong.
It said on the graphic before, when I was looking, I'm fairly sure it said 2 pit stops, but that might be a 3rd time of asking. We'll have to double check. Yeah, 3 pit stops for Fournier. So I'm not sure what the reason was for that 3rd one, because Fournier was doing a brilliant race up in the top 10, and now he's had to pit again to drop down to 14th.
Now, his second stint was very short. His second stint, so between his first and second pit stop, was very, very short. And I should have picked up on that at the time because that was way too short. But it wasn't within 5 laps. Because if it was in 5 laps, I'd say maybe he got a drive-through penalty. But it wasn't. Anyway, Leon Buck now will get the slipstream from Colin Spork. This looks like a real challenge for 3rd place. He's the fastest car on track. He's the fastest car on the straight. And he's flying past Colin Spork to get back onto the podium. Both Evolution cars are on the podium once again, and Spork had nothing to say about that.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because that car is very fast indeed. So he's got nothing left to give in terms of the straight line speed of that car. So this will be a really tough battle for him to get back into the 3rd position. He's done everything he can in clean air to try and get ahead of Leon Bock. He did that, it worked. But the problem is, it's a very difficult situation. Now, according to Rodrigo Carvalho, apparently he made an incorrect strategy Jeff Fournier, so that's why he needed to make a pit stop to solve it. David Junter's noticed that he's essentially had 2 short, soft stints. So maybe that, well, whether it was planned or whether it was unintentional, it certainly takes Jeff Fournier out of the top 10 when he was looking very good indeed for it, as Eros Mashuli has made a pit stop now. He's in there, and that should hand the final point over to Michael Francesconi for the time being. So this will be a very difficult situation. Right Kilk is in 13th and being caught by Jeff Fournier, who on fresh soft tyres is now absolutely rapid in terms of sector times. Just been keeping an eye on it. Fournier on a 29.8 for the middle split. That's pretty good going. That's comparable to what we're seeing from the leaders at this moment. So he's only a couple of tenths of a second away from their ultimate raw pace. I'm really impressed with Jonic Simičić today. He had a lot of pressure on him today to really deliver after a difficult start to the season. He hadn't been on the podium once before we got to Baku. This is his chance to get back to what he does best. Yellow in Sector 1, so something's happened in Sector 1.
I saw someone off on the outside. It was a backmarker, and it's Florian Gaia.
That's
and
unfortunate.
he's lost his front wing, so Gaia's hit something there. And judging by that position on the track, turn 1, maybe that was a brake fade or something along those lines, because that's a. It happened before. He's lost it under braking on the way in, and it's not brake fade. It's potentially maybe the brake bias was in the wrong place or something, because he's hit the inside barrier.
Okay, we're going to have another look at that incident. So Florian Gaia having a problem into turn 1. That definitely looks like brake failure to me. Florian Gaia is not a lackadaisical driver. You can see he's trying to break down. Look. The car isn't changing down fast enough to carry it. Look, the back end steps out. So he's tried to save it, gone into the wall. And that's Florian Gaia really struggling to get that car under wraps. So a bit of a difficult situation. David Yunt correcting me on the stream. He says he wouldn't have stayed top 10, Jeff Fournier, if he had done the long medium run like the other guys. He was racing too long with Fabrizio Gobbi, and the guys behind basically caught him up. And he does point out that Jeff is still rusty. Not a lot of race experience compared to the other people at Bud. So, well, I don't know whether Jeff Fournier wants to take offense at that, but maybe that's just calling it what it is. Rodrigo Carvalho pointing out, though, his laps on the mediums weren't good. He doesn't like them very much, so maybe that's another contributing factor. But Flo Gaia was in dead last anyway, had an incident, and is now even further back in the pack, and is obviously now a good 10 to 15 seconds for this lap slower than he has done previously, because now he's going to have to come into the pits. But the thing is, from Flo Gaia's point of view, he may as well stay out, because he's 18th with 15 cars that can score points. He could still bag a point today if he just stays in it. We're seeing drivers dropping out like flies now. We had 26 starting. We've lost Kiersmakers, Zappala, Russo, Pascal, Panzar, Lucchini, Lino and Singh. So there is a chance that he could still bag a point today. We've got 11 laps to go, including this one.
I'm not convinced we do have a problem with brakes just yet, because if that was a classic brake failure from Gaia, then I'd expect him, first of all, to be out of the race by now, because you can't return to the pits without brakes, and second of all, to have just sailed straight on rather than spinning into the inside barrier. But I may be wrong. But anyway, I think the drivers are okay for now. Whether they will be for the whole race is another matter, because the last 10 laps are, of course, where you'd start to see failures and things like that. So you're right that if a driver can finish this race, they stand quite a good chance of scoring points. You know, statistically, a 15/18th chance of scoring points as it stands, and that chance may get even higher as more people retire.
So Yannick Bock leads the race from Jonic Simičić, who is 2.5 seconds back. A brilliant run this from Yannick Bock. He really has maximised the opportunity to get in the slipstream of Jonic Simičić early, take the place, and use the straight line speed advantage that the Evolution team have had here at Baku to good effect and good advantage. But this is the opportunity for Yannick Bock to start to stretch out the lead over the rest of his opponents, which will make him virtually uncatchable if he does this enough times over the course of the season. Here is Fabrizio Gobbi pushing David Fidek. This is a great little battle shaping up between these two. They've been pushing in the top 10, doing a cracking job, and now we've got an opportunity to see what Fabrizio Gobbi can do. Wheel to wheel, side by side with David Fidek. Here we go, and Fidek is going to make him work for it. They're going to be side by side. Fidek's going to go for the switchback off the turn, but he lets Gobby go. So Gobby gets a good overtaking move and the fastest lap with it as well, actually, a 1:38.925 for Fabrizio Gobby.
Wow.
Can David Fidek return? He's got the slipstream and he's got DRS, so there's a good chance here for Fidek, and he knows it. He's gaining, but Fidek isn't about to throw away good points.
I remember when Gobby was the first driver under 140, now he's under 139. Just shows you that the track keeps evolving and the race keeps evolving, but Gobby, they're very, very quick. Fidek will, and of course Fidek's a great driver, you know, he's a double world champion here, although he will drop back now because there's no way that he can keep up with the immense pace that Gobby is demonstrating in that GSR car. Now, up in front, you're saying that Yanni Simoncic was doing a great job. I totally agree. I think that the fact he's splitting the Evolution drivers, who were set to take a massive, and still will take a massive point haul away from this round, is proof enough, although he's now within 2 seconds of Yannick Buck again. He's not gaining at a blistering pace, but it was over 3/10 on the last lap, so it's not over yet.
Has Yannick Bock made the mistake, I wonder? Because he was 2.5 seconds clear, and now Simoncic is within 2 seconds. I wonder if Bock has made a mistake somewhere on the lap, and that's cost him half a second, because that's either that or it's poor pace from Simoncic. I'm just looking at their sector times, and
it was only 3/10.
Well, yeah, about 3/10 that he lost there to Simoncic, so maybe just a bad exit or something from Bock, and that was all it took for Simoncic to gain that little bit of extra momentum. So Simoncic is still turning it on, still trying to push him to see if he can get Bock to make a mistake, and there's no reason not to back down. Meanwhile, we've got Fournier closing in on Right Kilk as these two battle away for position. These two could have had a lot more from the race today, but various different things have played against them to a certain extent, and now we get to see Kilk versus Fournier, two guys that will not back down from a battle.
But yeah, 2 seconds is not comfortable at all. You don't want to just be 2 seconds in front of someone. You want to pull away as much as you can, but really you can only start to relax once you get maybe 3 or 4 seconds ahead, especially on a circuit where you've got such a long straight. But anyway, so yeah, Kilk versus Fournier. This is over 13th position, a little further down than both of those drivers would like to be. I'm not surprised that Kilk had an incident in the pit lane, actually, because this pit lane is a very dangerous one. I remember the first time I saw the Baku City Street Circuit, I looked at the pit lane entry and thought, how is that legal? Because the way they're breaking down from such a high speed, and you have a chicane with such a small runoff, and drivers are going to be pushing into that. It's just begging for accidents, and I really hope we don't get a big one in real life before long. But anyway, right, Kilk had to suffer that in this GPVWC race. Fournier, of course, hasn't had an accident yet. I said yet quite menacingly there. I didn't mean to imply that he is going to have an accident, but just hasn't quite got his strategy right today. For whatever reason, has made one more pit stop than a lot of the opponents around him. DRS open, he won't get close enough this time around, but he's going faster than Kilk, relatively considerably. 3/10 is the difference between those two on that lap as well. Meanwhile, up front, Simoncic has been gaining on Buck the last couple of laps, but Buck retaliated on that last lap with a 1/10 advantage. So it's still close there. It's not comfortable by any means for Yannick Buck, but really he's going to have to make a mistake if Simoncic is going to win this race.
Absolutely, and Simoncic is throwing absolutely every ounce of strength and determination and gusto at the race leader that he possibly can. He knows that it's not lost yet. He's got a chance. If he can just get into Yannick Bock's head here psychologically, he's got an opportunity. And he is actually gaining in terms of straight line speed. That's interesting. I thought Yannick Bock was going to have the fastest car out there on the circuit, but Simoncic is actually gaining in a straight line. So that is really good to see that there is still a potential for Simoncic to gain a little bit more from the Burst Esport car to gain ground on the Evolution in front. The gap between them is 1.6, and that is not good news for Yannick Bock. Bock would really want to have put this race to bed. Simoncic still feels he's got a race victory in his pocket. If he can just eke out a little bit more from the car, if he can just get into that 1 second DRS range of Yannick Bock and start to get close on the back straight, He's got an opportunity, but this is so tight and so tense. You almost want there to be a DRS zone opening at 1.5 seconds, not 1 second, because this could be a very tasty little battle between these two. And Yannick Bock seems to be the one who's cracking under pressure, not Simoncic.
So Bock leading by 1 foot. Well, actually, Simoncic on that last lap did his first lap under 1:39. Look at that. So Simoncic is still pushing, and that was another 0.3 of a second out of Yannick Bock's time. So it's every 3 or so laps, Bock sets a lap that's faster than Simoncic, but the other laps, Simoncic takes a couple of tenths out of Bock. So I reckon this is a case of maybe 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But the trouble with that is that it's going to very much neutralize when he gets into the proper turbulent air. So whether he's actually going to, I mean, he'll be getting a good dose of turbulent air anyway through the corners. It'll get worse as he gets closer. So whether he'll actually be able to make an overtake like this or not is another matter. And look at that, because Bock's last lap there was his fastest lap of the race, 1:39.018. And it's not as fast as Simoncic's fastest lap, but it's faster than Simoncic's last lap was, and that's what matters. So Bock, they're still keeping the gap at about 2 seconds, but it's not stable at all. It really could go either way here.
It really could. 6 laps to go, and the pressure is mounting for Yannick Bock. Essentially, the pressure is on him to make the mistake, and we know that he hasn't had a squeaky clean season yet. Of course, he does lead the Drivers' Championship, but he's had 2 wins and then a 6th and a 13th, so it hasn't exactly been a bed of roses for Yannick Bock this season, and the pressure is on him to make the error. Simoncic has got nothing to lose at this point. Sector 1, yellow flags, as here comes Jeff Fournier on right kilk, and he realises that with yellow flags on, he can't make the overtaking move. He probably would have been able to into that first corner, but with yellow, someone's had a shunt.
I'm not sure if anyone's quite. Oh wait, yep, and it's Simoncic. Simoncic is off.
Simoncic is gone from second position, pushing too hard. Jurnic Simoncic has the victory. I don't believe it. Jurnic Simoncic. We're going to have to watch it back. It's going to be a Bock Brothers 1-2.
It's a brake failure. I think it's a brake failure, Jake.
Oh,
I think what we all feared might happen has happened, because he has missed his braking totally, and I don't think that was his fault.
No. Let's look at it.
I reckon he sailed straight into the wall.
Well, let's look at it again as he comes down towards the same place on the circuit. Look, he's trying to slow the car down. It won't stop. Bang! Oh, Jurnic Simoncic, what a shocker. The race was coming alive. He had a chance. Let's watch him on the brakes. Look, the car just won't stop. You can see at this point the car should be travelling in a much more uniform way to slow down for the corner. He's trying to get the car stopped by utilising the curb to try and kick the car around into a spin, but he knows at this point he's trying to stop it from going into the wall, but it's too late. Game over. Unbelievable.
Oh, my heart goes out to him, because I think he stood a really good chance of winning this race here.
Yeah.
And to suddenly see him in the barriers through what looks like no fault of his own, that's absolutely heartbreaking. He was doing such an amazing job, but it's a Bock 1-2. It's Evolution Motorsports followed by Evolution Motorsports, and Colin Spork will be on the podium. The extremely young Edge Esports driver in his first season of Super League is heading to his second podium, providing he can keep the brakes alive. What a turnaround in this race.
Well, also worth pointing out, as Reprep F1 points out, same place as his teammate. Both cars ending up going at exactly the same corner at various points in the race. What a shame. What a shame for the team, and certainly for Jurnic Simoncic. That was a guaranteed podium. Whether he managed to catch up to Yannick Bock or not. Here's Leon Bock, and he's got it absolutely plain sailing now, because he's checked out. 3 seconds clear now of Colin Spork, and I'm afraid that is the exciting factor of this race. Well and truly fizzled out. You could see that Jurnic Simoncic was pushing Yannick Bock to within an inch of what the car could do, and unfortunately the car couldn't quite hang on to it as long as he could. But what a shame. That was such a great race that was battling, brewing up to a crescendo. And it's going to be a Bock domination now between Yannick and Leon in 1 and 2.
And I tell you what, Jake, I'm going to preemptively or prematurely give my driver of the day to Jurnic Simoncic there. I think he deserves it through all that he's been through, because I really think that he may well have won that race in the end. But we'll never know now, I'm afraid. And I'm sure that my Driver of the Day award will be absolutely no condolence, no consolation for what he's just experienced. Anyway, Fournier and Kilk may be about to change place on the straight. They're chasing Stepkarski. Might well catch him before the end of the race. And Fournier wants to get both of them. Look at this. Fournier to the inside of Kilk on the straight, and he's going to get up to 12th place as they go under the lighting gantry. There we go. Nicely done from Jeffrey Fournier, who makes the corner for good measure.
There was a yellow in Sector 1 briefly. I don't know whether that was just because Fournier went a little bit wide. It might well have been. But Fournier now trying to get after...
Oh, no, it's Quinte! Oh, no!
Oh, no, another one has gone. So Quinte's had an off as well. And that looks like a similar problem. So Quinte, we're going to have to look at that one back again. So it looks as though in the closing stages of this race then, several drivers having problems. Look, he's dropped it on the way through, and that is a big problem. We can see the drivers trying to dodge the debris of the car. So let's go and look back as Quinte drops out of the race. And this is why Flo Gaia didn't pull out when he had his spin earlier on, because now drivers are dropping out. Flo Gaia does have a chance to get points. Here we go. This is what happened to Alessandro Quinte as he comes out of turn 3 up towards 4. And again, he tries to brake. Bang! The car is just not slowing down into the braking zone. He's there at the 50-meter board. He's already been braking, and the car is just carrying too much speed.
And it's weird because it looks, if you look on board with the car, it looks as if it's almost collapsed on the rear left because of the way the car was twitching as he went into the braking zone. I don't know whether that was brakes or something, but it almost looks as if the front right was lifting off the ground. And I can't help but feel that may have been another braking issue. We are seeing cars struggling in in these late stages here. I'm afraid I expected that, but
Fournier's got a chance of top 10 now because of Quinte's demise. Yep. Fournier is in behind Stepkovsky. He goes right because that's where Stepkovsky sends him, but he's still got the speed. He's still got the guile to get through. So Fournier up into the top 10 again. Great work for Scuderia Basilia. That's exactly what he wanted to do, and that's exactly what he's been able to achieve there. So a good run from Fournier. Another great overtake. He's going to struggle to catch Vuk before the end, but with 3 laps to go and everybody dropping like flies in terms of brakes, anything could still happen.
And it's why you don't give up on a street circuit, because people who have had accidents in this race, fully fledged crashes, might end up still scoring points here. We've got just under 3 laps to go in this race now, and the driver's going to have to be nursing their cars home.
Big mistake from Stepkovsky. That was a big one trying to keep up with Fournier. I wonder if he's starting to have issues now, because that car is really starting to struggle on the brakes. Look, I think he's got a brake problem. Stepkovsky really starting to struggle to get the car slowed down on the big stops. On the shorter ones, it's not quite so big a problem. But here, he's really going to have a difficulty if it is brake trouble, because he's certainly making a couple of big errors and braking very early for the corners now. Look. Struggling to carry the car through. He just about gets away with that one. Maybe it was just a little bit of a driver error. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. But certainly the drivers here struggling to get their cars home. 2 to go.
Maybe he's just nursing the car home, seeing what's happening to other people. But he's got Riot Kilk on his tail, so he can't afford to do that too much. But I suppose better to finish the race in 12th than to crash out and maybe be 16th and just miss out on a point. But anyway, here we go down the straight. Kilk's not going to be close enough this time unless Stepkovsky brakes really early into to turn 1, but they both make the corner, so it's okay. Yeah, tension building in these late stages. Buck just has 1 more lap to go, 1.5 laps to go, because he's not quite triggered the final lap beam yet. And by Buck, I could mean either of them, because it's 1-2 for that team as they come towards the end of this very, very tense race. And I've got my fingers crossed for everyone out there right now.
Well, it looks like it could be the perfect family affair at the front end of the field here at Baku, as Yannick Bock is on the home straight. He will cross it for the 50th time, and he will have 1 more tour of the Baku street circuit here in Azerbaijan. And it's an absolutely heavenly day for Evolution. They couldn't have asked for this race to play out better. Even when the pressure was ramping up from Jonic Simoncic, it was Evolution that came away with everything rather than Simoncic. And they really did manage it from the start. They didn't get too stressed out about the fact that Simoncic had a fast car underneath him. They just read the percentages. They got into the slipstream. They used the DRS. They didn't panic when things were getting a little bit hectic. They just read the situation. They trusted the car. They trusted the tyre strategy. This is a great race from the Bock brothers.
So, final lap now for Yannick Bock and Leon Bock. They are 1-2. And on the final lap here at Baku, lap 51 out of 51, Colin Spork is the other driver on the podium in the Edge Esports car there, bringing home some decent points for Edge, and they'll be the only decent points for the Edge team today, I'm afraid. But anyway, Tomasz Vok has. Sorry, I'm getting a little distracted there. He's still on the back of Giuseppe Ragusa. I thought he'd got past him there, but he hadn't.
Right,
but,
so here comes Yannick Bock. He's coming through the final section of the race now. And this is the moment he and the Evolution team have been waiting for. This is a massive transitional moment in the championship fight when it was very close for the first 4 races. Bock taking his 3rd win of 5 really stamps his authority on the 2021 Super League, and this could be the first of many as Yannick Bock comes out the final turn, down the home straight, and it's going to be victory in the Grand Prix of Azerbaijan. Yannick Bock takes the victory in Super League in the 5th race of the season. That's 3 out of 5, and it's a 1-2 for the Bocks as an absolutely showcase display from Yannick Bock and Leon Bock. First and second, with Colin Spork in a fabulous 3rd. He couldn't quite split them. He did the best he could, but manages to get home in 3rd place. Stefan Rualt, that's a good position for him. 4th place, it's not quite what he could have had at India, but it's certainly some good points in the bank. Maciej Mlinek in 5th place. Epic comeback drive from Gobby to get a 6th place finish. The strategy didn't quite work out in his favour, but he's definitely made good use of the points that he has been able to take there. A good run from Gobby, Fidek, Ragusa, Vak and Fournier in the top 10. What a dramatic race.
It's the Evolution Revolution, 1-2 in front. And what a race from both of those, just to finish it as well. We often forget just how difficult it is to drive one of these cars, especially around a circuit as tight as this. And doing that castle section 51 times, most of us would trash the car and would have crashed ages ago, but they didn't, because they have the skill, and obviously it runs in the genetics because Leon and Yannick both as quick as one another today. The remainder of the point scoring positions taken up by Spork, Winnick, Golby, Fidok, Ragusa, Fournier, Stepkovsky, Kilk, Francesconi, Mascioli, and Moose. All of those, of course, unofficial results. And then just missing out was Florian Gurr. But props to Florian for finishing after knocking off his front wing a few laps from the end. The retirement list is extensive because we have that's 10 retirements I count there, Jake, and 4 cars, of course, didn't show up for today, so we didn't quite have the full grid of 30, but 10 retirements. It was a race of attrition here, and well done to everyone who finished.
Yeah, really exciting stuff. Excellent performances throughout the field there. Yannick and Leon Bock 1 and 2. Colin Spork 3rd from Rualt and Mlinek. Fabrizio Gobby in P6 ahead of David Fidek, Giuseppe Ragusa, Thomas Vak, and the ever-fighting Jeff Fournier in 10th position. 11th place in the final few points positions held by Dan Stepkovsky, Wright Kilk, Michael Francesconi, Eros Mashudi, and the final point going to Matthias Mus ahead of Florian Geyer, the only other finisher. Retirements, there were many of them. Alessandro Quintai, Jenic Simoncic dramatically from 2nd place. Sandip Singh, both Adonises then out of the race. Giuseppe Lino, and then of course we also lost Mirko Lucchidi, the Italian for Green Stripes Racing. Robin Panzar, just like his teammate, out on the same spot. Christian Pascal for Mayor Downard. Federico Russo, the other Green Stripes car. And we lost Germano Zappala and Lauren Kiersmakers in the very early stages of the race after their early incident, with the two of them battling for the same bit of racetrack. Big drama at Baku, both before and during the race. And it's going to be very exciting to see how this championship continues to evolve. But it's certainly looking pretty spot on solid for the man who's taken his 3rd win out of 5. We'll wait to see who appears for the press conferences afterwards. But we may be limited for time. So obviously it'll have to be a fresh in, fresh out sort of approach. Very controversial, particularly for one man, especially Jenic Simoncic. Surely a chance of victory, absolutely robbed.
Yeah, but even so, there's no guaranteeing that he would have won that. Of course, I think that he could have done, but could I guess the saying is coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Mm.
And Yannick Buck, of course, had the advantage and had the lead of the race, and he wasn't quite as fast as Buck, as fast as Simoncic at that point in the race. But who's to say he didn't have the pace to hold him off towards the end there? I think he very much could have done. You know, as much as Simoncic could have won the race, Yannick did. So anyway. Do you want to talk to the Buck brothers, Jake?
I do indeed. Let's bring them in together. Yannick Bock and Leon Bock. What an absolutely sensational battle it's been for you two today. First of all, Yannick, a brilliant victory. That was probably one of your toughest of the season. It certainly looked pretty hectic out there. You were never really able to get away from Jonas Simoncic until his moment at the end of the race. So it must have been very stressful for you out there from the get-go.
Well, obviously it's kind of hard track, so yeah, I was pushing until the end, and then I think his brakes gone. So the last laps was just saving brakes, but yeah, there was plenty left in the end. But you never know when you're driving, so it's kind of a tricky one. Yeah, but I'm very happy today. Pace was really good, especially on the medium stint. I was like 3/10 faster. Yeah, I'm very happy today.
And obviously, this is a very important win with your closest rivals, Maguire and De Waal, not in the car today, and you getting a third win. Is this already the start of a big title attack, or is it still way too early in the season for you as far as you're concerned regarding championship titles?
Well, obviously, I want to win every race, so in the end, I want to win the title. But yeah, it's way too early to say I will win or something like this.
Okay, any questions from you on this one, Caitlin, for Yannick?
Were you nervous about the advances of Yannick in the late stages? Did you think you could hold him up?
Well, he pushed quite hard in the end, and I was pushing as well, but he was like 1 or 2 tenths faster a lap. But I don't know if he would come close in the S range. Maybe he could go for a move, but yeah, you never know.
Well, congrats on your fantastic victory there. That was really quite impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, really exciting stuff. Let's talk to Leon as well. Leon, that was a very interesting race for the two of you because obviously you had to kind of work as a team, but you had a lot of the hard work to do when you were battling in the early stages with Colin Spork and Stefan Rualt. That must have been very, very tricky. And then obviously you had a lot going on in those early laps. Just talk us through those early stages to get you up into second place overall.
Yeah, so first I tried to make no mistakes and keep them behind. I knew I had a bit more top speed on the straight, so that helped me. In the first stint, I tried to protect the undercut from Colin, but in the second he got me, but I could manage to overtake him again for P3, and yeah, a bit lucky in the end that Jenny had his brakes fail, and so I'm very happy with P2 and obviously P1 and P2. Yeah.
Interestingly, when was the last time you two guys finished 1 and 2? Because that's a very impressive performance from the pair of you to be so close to each other at the line.
Yeah, I don't know. I think last season maybe Yannick and Dennis, but definitely first time this season.
Amazing stuff. Any questions for you, Caitlin, for Leon after a very tough race?
Not necessarily, but I guess. Yeah, I guess just congrats on your consistency today. It must be extremely difficult to maintain concentration for that long.
Yeah, as Yannick said, difficult track. If you hit the wall once, it can be the end of the race. So that was the main thing today I tried. Yeah, and obviously even better that I finished P2. And so I'm very happy with this result today.
And so you should be. Congratulations.
An excellent one, too, for the pair of you. Well done, Yannick. Well done, Leon. Let's bring in Colin Spork. Third position for Colin Spork today. And Colin, I have to say, it was really exciting to watch you trying to fight your way tooth and nail. You actually jumped Leon Bock in the second round of pit stops. That must have been so satisfying. And that must have felt as well, that was a real chance for you to bring the race back in a way.
Yeah. Well, hello, guys. Yeah, it was a decent line, I would say, after 2 pretty tough races. The first stint, I mean, the soft pace wasn't really there, I felt. Although on mediums the pace was really good. So we need to work on that. But yeah, I felt like they had a lot of straight line speed, so the only overtaking opportunity I would have is doing strategy wise. So I tried to go early. I knew it was very early to go for with the tires, but I was just trying to do anything to get in front and see if I was able to keep the position. But yeah, he was just being able to push a bit more on the tires, and I wasn't able to do the same. I just needed to manage them in, like, let's say lap 4 to lap 10 in the stint. But then I was in a good window and I was able to push. I closed the gap, but unfortunately not enough. When I saw Jurne had a brake failure, I was hoping that Bok and Bok had the same. So, but that's why I was trying to close the gap to put them under pressure to use the brake, but unfortunately wasn't close enough.
Well, how big a difficulty was brakes for you? Because obviously there were a few drivers having difficulties with it. Was it something that you were worried about at any point in the race?
Well, I mean, I was very worried about the whole race with the brakes, because even though I was on like all the settings with like fully open duct and maximum discs, it was still tough to make it. Well, tough. If you would maybe use a bit too much front brakes, you will not able to make it. So we also had to work on that in our team, but we did it before the race. We've fixed it. So yeah, fortunately for Jurne, he didn't. But yeah, I'm not too unsatisfied with that.
I suppose you have to pick up the pieces from your side. Final word from you,
True.
Caitlin, with Colin Spork.
So I noticed you didn't have the fastest setups in a straight line. Did that hold you back much in terms of the race as a whole?
Yeah, a bit. After the race, I would have picked a bit lower wing, but because in the first stint, I knew, it looked like they were just a bit too quick. Dropped out of the DRS and wasn't able to get back into it. But on the mediums, I had very good pace and I closed the gap. Stayed in DRS for almost the whole stint. Made a mistake and lost like almost a second. And then after like 2 laps, I was already back at this bumper. So that showed that the pace was good enough, but unfortunately,
Yeah.
straight line speed wasn't.
Well, you still made that third place work, so congratulations. That was an amazing
Thanks.
job.
Thank you.
Terrific stuff. And that's our final word from the racing here at GPVWC Super League. It's been a pretty incredible race. We go to the next round of the championship in Austria next time out, and it really is exciting. Is it going to be a one-man freight train from Yannick Bok, or will there be more action to come? We'll find out in 2 weeks as Super League continues. I'm Jake Sanson from myself and Caitlin Penny. A massive thank you to you for watching. We'll see you again for Super League in 2 weeks' time.